Peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth. This is Abdul Bey with AMPAG. Now I'll be presenting class tonight. Tonight we will be going over the second part of the read for the United Nations Charter. So we talked about the misconceptions and the misinformation that has surrounded the United Nations several years now. And that misconcept and misinformation was to make the United Nations the boogeyman, if you will, in our own eyes, so that we stay away from the justice that we may be able to attain through the United Nations. Right? So the United States is the devil. The Rothschilds, the Rockefeller, the Illuminati, they created the United Nations, and they wanted to take over the world and enslave the whole planet. But then when we just basically on the preamble by itself of the Charter, it shows that the purpose and intent of the United Nations is to establish peace and security across planet Earth, to end wars, right? Use of force, things of that nature. Oh, but I'm not finished. What else happened through the United Nations? Let's talk about that. Let me share the screen. Can everyone hear me just fine?
Just fine.
Yes, perfect. All right. So here we are, back with the United Nations. Peace, dignity, and equality on a healthy planet Earth. Okay. According to all the other scholars, it should be war, strife, and enslavement on planet Earth. Didn't they make voodoo and all these so-called religious practices the devil in the minds of our people? Right? The boogeyman in the eyes of our people. We stay away from that. It's all about Christianity. Don't do no hoodoo, voodoo, none of that. That's the devil. That's witchcraft. They have worked that magic on us so many times. That includes the United Nations. So what is the purpose of the United Nations, or what aspects of world peace and security has the United Nations took part in? Well, global decolonization. Can I get someone to read for me, please? Is someone available that could read for me?
I got you.
I appreciate you. Go ahead and begin reading right there, decolonization.
Blow it up a little bit bigger for me.
All right, hold on. Why is it not doing it? Okay, there we go. Can you see it?
Yep, got it. When the United Nations was founded, 1945, some 750 million people, nearly a third of the world's population, lived in territories that were dependent on colonial powers. Today, hold on. Today, there are 17 non-self-governing territories remaining, and fewer than 2 million people live in them. The wave of decolonization, which changed the face of the planet, was born with the UN and represents the world's body's first great success. As a result of decolonization.
Quick. So there was a wave of decolonization that took place. Not only were we not a part of it, but we didn't even know about it. Why is that? We got to start asking serious questions. The members of the Nation of Islam need to start asking Farrakhan some serious questions. The members of the church need to ask all their spiritual leaders some serious questions. The students at the HBCUs need to start asking these administrators serious questions. Can somebody please keep themselves on mute? Hakeem, could you please monitor that? And last but not least, the members of the temples need to be asking some serious questions to these grand chiefs, our spiritual leaders of all, Fez or no Fez, Negro or Moorish, they got some explaining to do. They had us out there marching and praying and doing everything else. But what was going on planet Earth? A wave of decolonization was taking place, and we were kept out of the loop. Continue, brother.
Okay. The international trusteeship.
No. Go back to as a result of the.
As a result, is that what we are? As a result, right?
Yes.
As a result of decolonization, many territories became independent and joined the UN. The international trusteeship system was established by the UN Charter, affirming the principle of self-determination. The Charter describes the responsibility of states for territories under their administration as a sacred trust in which the interests of their inhabitants are paramount.
All right, hold that right there. The international trusteeship system was established by the UN Charter. So the UN Charter established the trusteeship system in order to assist indigenous people who were under colonial rule to gain their independence, right? And it goes on to say, affirming the principle of self-determination, the Charter describes the responsibility of states for territories under their administration. So the United States, for example, our land is under their administration as a sacred trust. And the interests of the inhabitants are paramount. So our interest on our land that they are the administrators of is paramount, of high importance. I'm gonna ask this question again. Why didn't we know this? Why we've never studied this? Why wasn't this ever brought to the knowledge of the people? You can't say it. I'm not gonna accept. Oh, I didn't know. Nah, Farrakhan. You was cool with Gaddafi, and Gaddafi was trying to establish the United States of Africa, which means he knew all about these resolutions. He knew all about decolonization. He knows about international law and statehood. He was an international law jurist, for crying out loud. And y'all were buddies. And you gonna sit here and tell me that he didn't put you on game, sir? Million Man March. It should have been a Million Man Constitutional Convention. I mean, how much marching are we going to do before we get tired of these bunions and actually pick up the pen and do something about it? Continue, brother, the Trusteeship Council.
Trusteeship Council. The Charter also created the Trusteeship Council as a main organ of the UN. It was to monitor the situation in 11 specific trust territories, which were subject to separate agreements with administering states. These territories have been formally administered under the mandates from the League of Nations, or separated from countries defeated in the Second World War, or voluntarily placed under the system by their administering power. 11 territories were placed under this system. Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. As the process of decolonialization continued to advance, the General Assembly in 1960 adopted its landmark Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. The Declaration affirmed the right of all people to self-determination and proclaimed that colonialism should be brought to a speedy and unconditional end. 2 years later, a special committee on decolonization was established to monitor its implementation.
Hold that right there. We're going to look at that. As the process of decolonization, the General Assembly in 1960 adopted its landmark Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. The Declaration affirmed the right of all people to self-determination. When the United Nations and under international law, when they talk about self-determination, they're not talking about the rights that an individual has. Like I have my own personal individual right to self-determination to, I don't know, play chess as a hobby, for example. That's what I like. That's what I want to do. Right? It doesn't have anything to do with that. When it talks about the self-determination of a people, it's talking about the collective right, or the right of the collective people, or the people collectively, to gain their own sovereignty and independence by establishing a state government to force decolonization. That's your right to self-determination. The only way you can decolonize is through three branches of government. The only way that you can get reparations for the wrongdoings is through your three branches of government. You're not going to give it to a bunch of stateless Black people, Moorish Americans, and African Americans. That's why we haven't gotten it yet. Because we don't have governments to demand the reparations. When Vietnam received their reparations, the reparations were paid out from the Treasury of the United States to the Treasury of the Vietnam government. They didn't give it to a bunch of Vietnamese as individuals. It's a state-on-state dispute. The United Nations deal with state, govern the affairs of states, of the several states, the several 193 member states and non-member states of the world. And the ICJ, International Court of Justice, is the referee, or really the judge, the judicial arm or organ of the United Nations. So it says with settling dispute amongst nations, amongst states, amongst countries, however you want to put it. But what do they use to settle these disputes? Law. So you can't walk up into the United Nations with the Circle 7 Quran or a Bible or a J.A. Rogers book or a Black's Law dictionary for that matter, or a Webster's dictionary, like, see, look here, Judge, it says that we are the Americans. No. You got to have a legal argument. And what sets up your legal argument? The law. In our case, what law sets up our legal argument? The treaties that they have signed. So when we take them to court, they'll be looking at the treaty, not what Noble Drew Ali said, not what the divine constitution and bylaws say, not what Farrakhan said or Elijah Muhammad in his book or any other book, publication, literature of any kind. They're not even going to look at United States internal municipal laws. The laws of the country goes away whenever there's a dispute between two states, because the law of the country does not apply to another state. It only applies to its nationals or its citizens. So the external law that pertains to the several countries, the several states, the several nations, the member states of the United Nations, is international law. Treaties, conventions, resolutions, agreements that's either between two states or multiple states, or the resolutions, agreements, convention, etc., that comes out of the United Nations Charter. So two countries, Brazil and Chile, can enter into an agreement, which will be then known as a treaty. That treaty becomes an international document, which becomes international law, and it has to be deposited with the United Nations. Why? Because if there's ever a dispute, then that means that the ICJ would have to oversee the dispute, and they need to look at the reference points to determine who's guilty versus who's innocent. That document that they're going to look at is, first of all, that treaty that Brazil and Chile had together. And then outside of that, it will be whatever conventions or resolutions or United Nations Charter agreements that are applicable to the case. Not the Circle 7, not the Bible, not J.A. Rogers, not Ivan Van Sertima's books, not Jose Pimenta-based books. Treaties, international law, conventions, agreements, resolutions. That's what we need to be studying in order for us to find or gain liberation from our occupation that all of us are sick and tired of. Even the most sold out Grand Sheik is tired of the occupation of our land. Well, when are we going to do something different? We're in a status of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results, which makes us buffer behind the scrimmage line, unable to pick up the first down. We can't move the ball forward past the scrimmage line to get the first down. We keep buffering because we keep doing this. We keep running the same play over and over, and our quarterbacks keep getting sacked. And we don't see it. We just say, whatever, just keep on going, enforcing their constitution. Plap, he gets sacked again. Somebody constantly going to jail. We have to do something different, Morris. So if other Moors in other parts of the planet, and islands in Africa and all that, if they were able to gain their independence through decolonization, utilizing the agreements set forth by the United Nations, then obviously we need to be looking at that as well, because we too are under colonial rule. But remember the difference between us and everyone else. In fact, let's get the floor's participation. What's the difference? What's the unique nature of our colonial rule versus that of any other indigenous peoples on planet Earth?
Point of interest.
Our lives on the same landmass as us.
That's right.
Yep.
Our colonists are on the same land mass as us. Everybody else is being colonized across borders. France is colonizing Nigeria across borders. But the United States is here with us. They are in our house, sitting in the living room, cooking in the kitchen, while we making it do in the attic. Can we please grow a pair and come downstairs and kick them out of our house, put them outside to cut the grass because they can't leave, right? According to the treaties. Now, they would have to petition to abandon the treaties with a 12-month notice. Either one of us can. That's the stipulations in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, Article 25. So we can put them out there to cut the grass, but they no longer need to be running this house. You need to be trimming hedges and removing brush from around the house. You got to do something. But you ain't going to be up in this house like that. While I was in the attic, I came across the deed that showed that I'm the owner of the house. Thank you very much. Now you got to get up out of here. It's just that simple, Morris. All right, continue. In 1990, are you there, good brother?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute.
All good?
In 1990, the Assembly proclaimed the International Decade for the Eradication. Hold on, I keep sliding this thing. For the eradication of colonialism, 1990 to 2000, which included a specific plan of action. In 2001, it was followed by a second international decade for the eradication of colonialism. The end of the second decade coincided with the 50th anniversary of the Declaration on the Granting of the Independence to colonial countries and peoples. At the same time, the General Assembly declared the period 2011 to 2020 the third international decade for the eradication of colonialism. In 2020, the General Assembly adopted Resolution 75-123, declaring the period 2021 to 2030 the fourth international decade for the eradication of colonialism.
Sorry about that. All right, go ahead. My bad. You can continue. Are you on mute?
Okay.
Since the
creation of the United Nations, 80 former colonies have gained their independence. This includes all 11 trust territories, which have achieved self-determination through independence of free association with an independent state. The special committee continues to monitor the situation in the remaining 17 territories, working to facilitate achieving their decolonization.
Decolonization. All right. So, can anyone recall the triple principles of the act of adversary? Give me just the first principle.
Sovereign independence.
Okay, thank you, brother. So you see, they have free association. They have independent states. These are the three statuses in international law: independent states, free association, or integration. Well, a lot of these countries who have decolonized, they have chosen, some of these countries have chosen free association or integration. For us, those two statuses of free association or integration is actually going against the treaty. It's a violation of the treaty for us to accept that, because our status is that of a sovereignty and independence. The state who has, and according to that preamble, according to that treaty, the states who have free association status are the signatory powers, i.e. the United States. They have free association with an independent state. What is the independent state? The Empire of Morocco. Period. And so our objective is to bring back to life the Empire of Morocco, which is the independent state. And the United States would then become the free association with an independent state status of a state. Does that make sense to everyone?
The power of our signatory superiority in the contract.
Say it again.
Our superior signatory power in the contract that we have in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship.
Yes, we are the dominant parties in that contract, in all the contracts, in
Yes.
all the we are the dominant parties in those treaties. Okay.
It's long.
And that's it for that particular read. Go ahead, brother.
What am I looking at?
Yeah.
Overview?
I had
No,
a
no,
point
no,
of interest on that last paragraph.
Go ahead, brother.
You had a point of interest on that last paragraph.
Oh, okay. Let me go to it. All right. What about it? And by the way, we can't hear you that well. You might want to step up to the mic or something. I don't know. We can't hear you that well.
Okay, it's long. This is Israel Bay, Wazir Asurum. Point of interest that I had on the last paragraph, where it states about since the creation of the United Nations, 80 formal colonial have gained their independence. This includes all 11 trust territories, which have achieved self-determination through independence or free association. This free association, is it saying that they stop dealing with the colonial state in a sense of divorcing them?
Yeah, but the problem is that as you see, it says free association with an independent state. So let's say the Cherokee Nation. That will be somewhat of an example. Excuse me, that'll be an example. Who is the independent state that rules the Cherokee Nation? That's
United
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
No. Oklahoma is not even a state. It's a charter colony.
There's a Cherokee Nation
Well,
in
let's say-
South
well, let's
Carolina.
say-
United States of America.
The United States, yeah, the United States.
The United States is the independent state. And the Cherokee Nation is in free association with an independent state. And you see what that looks like. They have their own jurisdiction. They do their own thing. They got their own judges, their own laws, right? But they fall under the jurisdiction, the criminal and civil jurisdiction of the United States. So that would be what a free association type of situation would look like. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Brother Abdul.
Expecting for us to go in that status. Well, we got news for them. But that choice is ours, right? They don't make the choice for us. We raise our hand and say, oh, I want independence, or oh, I want free association, or oh, I want integration. It's up to us. Well, guess what we say? We say what the treaty says. And it says sovereignty and independence. Absolute sovereignty. But not only do we have the power of sovereignty and independence, but we also have the power of maintaining the civil and criminal jurisdiction in Morocco over all foreigners. We are the ultimate authority, period. And therefore, anyone else below us, such as the European signatory powers, they are linked to us. as the free association, meaning that they have their right to self-determination, their right to their autonomy, and do their own thing, right? And their jurisdiction and their powers, the powers of their courts is only limited to their citizens, but it doesn't cross over or bleed over into Morocco and Moroccan jurisdiction and the people of within the Moroccan jurisdiction. The act of extending the powers of your courts into a separate jurisdiction is what's called extraterritorial jurisdiction, extraterritoriality. And that's what they're exercising right now as we speak. So Public Law 856 has been on the president's desk since 1956 for him to sign, but only in the moment that he sees or deems appropriate to do so. And that time is now. Joe Biden, Trump, whoever's next, don't care. One of y'all gonna sign this. Part of the reason why JFK was assassinated. They knew he would have signed that public law to help end extraterritoriality, which then ends colonialism. That's what Malcolm X was talking, or should I say, El Malik Shabazz was talking about going to the United Nations. Why was he talking about that? Okay, he was talking about that because he came across this in his. I got to open it up in his travels to Mecca. Somebody put him on game because El Malik Shabazz wasn't hanging out with just like everyday people, was he? This is what he came across. Oh, well, I'm glad this popped up because I needed to touch on that real quick. But this is what he came across. This is General Assembly 15th session. You see what it says there? Brother, can you read that title for me?
It said the admission of the Federation of
No, brother, no. Right here, 15.
Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples.
Okay, and that's what. Oh, shoot. Hold on a second. And that's what we see here that they're talking about. Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples. We're going to read over that. It's a really short read. But before we go there, let's point this out. Where was it? Oh, further up. There we go. Let's look into this real quick. What does it say? Trusteeship Council. And what was the purpose of the Trusteeship Council? The charter also created the Trusteeship Council as a main organ of the UN. It was to monitor the situation in 11 specific trust territories, which were subject to separate agreements with administering states. So in other words, it was established to help decolonize, to help the inhabitants of the trust territories to decolonize and gain their independence. So what did we do? We established our own regional trusteeship system. Kendon Wazir and Vice President of the trusteeship system, could you please read Article 75 and so on for me, please?
Article 75. The Wazir Regional Council shall establish under its authority a regional trusteeship system for the administration and supervision of such territories as may be placed thereunder by subsequent individual agreements. These territories are hereinafter referred to as trust territories.
Continue.
Article 76. The basic objective of the trusteeship system, in accordance with the purpose of the present convention and as a natural corollary with the Charter of the United Nations laid down in Article 1 of the Convention and the UN Charter, shall be 1, to further regional and international peace and security. 2, to promote the political, economic, social, and educational advancement of the ipso jure Moorish subject, protege, native Moors, or inhabitants of the trust territories, and their progressive development towards self-government or independence, as may be appropriate to the particular circumstances of each territory and its people, and the freely expressed wishes of the Moors concerned, and as may be provided by the terms of each trusteeship agreement.
Hold that right there. Paying close attention, particularly to subsection 2. As we speak right now, the Moors, the Moorish Americans, the MAs have been going in on me on Facebook, right? Well, they never called me a dirty Moor or an agent, so I'll give them that. But they're going in on me nonetheless. They don't understand what it is that we're doing. And so I offered for everyone to join the class. Some may be on, maybe not, I don't know. Well, they all didn't necessarily petition for the link either. But let's examine subsection 2. Moors, Moorish Americans, Black people, African Americans, everybody. All of our people who have been misclassified and misnomered, who are suffering from an identity crisis. Let's look at what the WRC has done for you. 2, to promote the political, economic, social, and educational advancement of the ipso jure Moorish subjects, proteges, native Moors, or inhabitants of the trust territories, and their progressive development towards self-government or independence, as may be appropriate to the particular circumstances of each territory and its peoples, and the freely expressed wishes of the Moors concerned, and as may be provided by the terms of each trusteeship agreement. So, what is an ipso jure Moorish subject? Where do we get that information? Where do we get that from? In case anyone is asking. Okay. Let's go to it. Let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. I gotta look for it. Here it is. I don't mean to be going all over the place on y'all, right? This ain't it. But we do have to cover the bases so that you all can have an understanding. I gotta find the other one. Here it is. As to what it is that we're doing, because people don't really have an understanding as to what we're doing. They just think we're just doing whatever just because, and we're not just doing whatever just because. There's a rhyme and reason for everything that we're doing. It's based in international law. Okay, so this is the expatriation document from the United States. Mr. Phillip, the Charge d'Affaires, reporting to Mr. Root, the Secretary of State, and in 1906, reporting to the Secretary of State from the American Legation. We talked about this before. The American Legation was their diplomatic post in Tangier at the diplomatic body under the authority of the Sultan, right? This is why we can't be an American, because the American Legation was for quote unquote the white man, the Europeans. We were the Moors or the Moroccans in Morocco under the authority of the Sultan. We didn't need an American legation. All the Europeans had their own legation. You had the American legation, the German legation, the Russian legation, the British legation. It's the colonists reporting to the Sultan. So therefore we can't be Americans. They were the Americans reporting to the Sultan through the diplomatic body within their legation, their diplomatic posts, their consulate or embassy, if you will. Okay, so he was reporting us to the Secretary of State, Mr. Root, and he says here, citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws. No, that's not it. Yeah, that is it. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection. So if a Moor cannot prove citizenship, foreign citizenship or protections from another state, then he will be considered an ipso jure Moorish subject. That's not a good thing. Some Moors be saying, they point this out and they point it out as if it's a good thing, and it's not. It means that you're under the jurisdiction of the Europeans. And how did that become legal? Well, then he tells you how it becomes legal. The next paragraph. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized. Your descendants of Moroccans, born or naturalized in American jurisdiction. That's what made you a Moorish American. It's a subjugated status, Moors. Noble told you that. He said that you was a descendant of Moroccans. That was the first thing out of his mouth on key 15. You're descendants of Moroccans, born in America, naturalized in America. So what's the difference with a Moorish subject and an Italian, a Moorish American and an Italian American or a Korean American or a German American? What's the difference? Okay, let's give you the difference. There was a German family living in Germany who got tired of the rules of their government. They said, we're going to go to America. So they came and they applied to citizenship in America, went through the process of residency and then citizenship to then become naturalized as Americans in America. Then they became German Americans. If all else fails, they could always denounce that citizenship, that naturalization, and go back to Germany. That's not the same for Moorish Americans, is it? There is not a Moor in Morocco that decided to go hang out with America. We were naturalized against our knowledge, against our will. And if all else fails, there's no other nation for you to go to. Well, at the time there was, because you had the empire, right? You could always go petition the empire. That's what you were supposed to do, which is why Dred Scott was found as a plaintiff in error. He was petitioning the wrong court. He was supposed to petition consular court, which is the empire. But that's the difference. We were through the Naturalization Act of 1870 and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment that are not necessary, according to Noble Drew Ali. And why is it not necessary? Because you're supposed to be of your own nation, not accepting the subjugated status under the United States as a Moorish American. It's a subjugated status. I'm proving it right here. So when you gain protections from a foreign country, or should I say a Moorish government, that's when you now become a national. You got to choose one of the two. You can't be both an American and a Moor. You got to be you're either one or the other. It's two separate nations. So he goes on to say to point out to the Secretary of State, Mr. Root, the Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid. Remember, keep in mind, he is in Tangier at the diplomatic body with the Sultan and the Moxen and all the Moorish governments and all the government officials. So he is being briefed on these matters. So he's reporting what he's learning from the Sultan and the government, the Moroccan government. He's reporting that back to Mr. Root. So he's telling them, listen, let me go back up to right here, 2 and 3. I didn't finish it. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. It's because of the treaties that we are under subjugation. but it's also because of our acquiescence or our lack of knowledge of the treaties and the provisions. Because Article 15 is a nationality clause within the Treaty of Madrid. And that's why he pointed it out. And it says, any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized, right? The Naturalization Act of 1870 and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. That Noble said is not necessary. Why? Because you're supposed to be doing what it says here on Article 15. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country, the United States of America is a foreign country to us, y'all. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. America is in Morocco, period. Who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligations to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco. Did you get permission to be an American citizen? No, because you were naturalized against your will and knowledge. But that's paragraph 1. So paragraph 2 says, Moors, pay attention, Moorish Americans, Black people, everybody, foreign naturalization heretofore, or you could say foreign naturalization going forward from here on out, that's what heretofore means, acquired by subjects of Morocco, according to the rules established by the laws of each country, shall be continued to them as regards. So the laws of the United States apply to us with all its effects without any restrictions. Right, as long as we remain subjects, Moorish, ipso jure, Moorish subjects under the criminal and civil jurisdiction of the United States. So, okay, Moors, Moorish Americans, without even having to pull it up, excuse me, if I can visualize it in my head, I know y'all can. Any of you Temple Moors that may be on the phone, think about, visualize the covers of the 101. That image is burned in our memory. Noble Jew Ali stepping out of the cares of the world onto the rock of salvation, carrying the matriarch. So, what is the cares of the world that he was stepping out of? Which was depicted by water. Maritime law, admiralty law, American jurisdiction, stepping onto the Al-Marak of salvation. He was stepping onto Morocco, stepping away from America. He was choosing between the entire submission to the laws of the empire. He told us to do so by way of a picture art, signs and symbols. That's what that picture represents, is Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid, the nationality clause. We have to correct our concepts. We have been going down the wrong path for 100 freaking years, Moors. It's time to course correct or perish away. That's the bottom line. So, back to the Trusteeship Council. Brother Kendon, the Wazir, Vice President of the Trusteeship Council, please continue with subsection 3.
3, to encourage respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms.
Interjection, Wazir Abdul Bey. May I speak?
Oh, yes, of course. You can. Please do, sir. This is the chief of AMPAG. Go ahead, Brother J. Bay.
Thank you, Wazir. I just want to make something very clear to all the Moors that are listening in. Based upon the analogy that you gave about German citizens seeking immigration status with the United States of America, yes, those German citizens more than likely renounced their citizenship of Germany and became citizens of the United States of America, and they were also naturalized. Everyone in the jurisdiction of the United States Federal Corporation have been naturalized. I mean, everyone. It's not exclusive to just Moors. That's number one. Everyone's naturalized. Number two, some Moors will say, well, we didn't sign no contract, right? So Moors are very keen in understanding contract law. This was the Moors never signed a contract. Well, there lies the misunderstanding. According to the treaties, all the Moors are ipso jure Moor subjects. And according to the Treaty of Madrid, Article 15, paragraph 1 and 2, it is the Sultan who signed the contract on behalf of all the Moors, because the Sultan was governing over all the subjects. It is the Sultan who signed the contract on behalf of all the Moors. He had the sovereign authority to sign the contract to make you a naturalized American. However, in the Treaty of Madrid of 1880, Article 15, he also left a provision in Article 15, paragraph 1. It says, anytime the Moors no longer want to be naturalized, they can always come back home like Dorothy. So therefore, it should be understood when Moors talk about contract law, well, it's the Sultan who signed the contract on your behalf, no different than your mother signed the birth certificate at the time of your birth. She was entrusted to sign on behalf of you as being an infant or a minority. And the Moor subjects were just simply just subjects underneath the Sultan. And the Sultan used his pen to agree to the terms and conditions for Moors to be naturalized all throughout Europe. So when Moors say, well, I didn't sign no contract, you didn't need to sign it. The Sultan signed it. But he also left a provision for you to come back to the competency of returning back to Morocco. Are you?
Gratitude, Chief. Thank you for that, for the elaborating on that fact. And also, to camelback on what he said that everybody is naturalized. How can that be proven? Well, let me ask the floor a question. Do you really think or believe that Black people are the only ones whose names are in all caps on all these instruments, birth certificates, driver's licenses, etc.? No, everyone's name is in all caps. So that's not limited to just Moors or Black people. Everybody has been naturalized. Thank you for that question.
That's why they call it human trafficking. Human trafficking.
You can call it that. It's naturalization. It ain't really human trafficking. It's naturalization. Some of it was done voluntarily, but most of as far as it relates to us, it wasn't voluntarily. We were just naturalized against our own will, and like the chief was pointing out, it was done so by the Sultan. He signed on it while we were in our state of minorities, right? Minor state. We were minors, and he was the adult, if you will. And he acted in that capacity.
Understood. I wanted to say something about Article 15. When you're looking for it, when you go to look for it, it will take you to a place where it says Article 14 and 15 is with the British Convention. You can find it there. So they send you over to the British Convention, which puts you in their court as a person. I want to thank Noble Kendon Bay because he sent me the actual Article 15. I yield.
Islam. Well, you're not. What you're really looking for, if you were to Google it, is the Treaty of Madrid, 1880, and from that document you go to Article 15. Keep that in mind for future reference.
That's what I did. That's what I did, and that's what I found when I Googled it. The Treaty of Madrid, 1880, and went to Article 15. That's exactly what it stated. Articles 14 and 15 can be found in the British Convention. And I'm just letting the panel know, the Moors on the call know that there is a curveball being thrown at that Article 15. Beware. I yield.
That's fine, brother. Gratitude for that. You may continue, Brother Kendi.
Three, to encourage respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, nationality, gender, sex, language, or religion, and to encourage recognition of the independence of the native Moors of the world. And 4, to ensure equal treatment in social, economic, and commercial matters for all member states of the convention and the members of the United Nations and their nationals, and equal treatment for the latter in the administration of justice without prejudice to the attainment of the foregoing objective and subject to the provisions of Article 80. 5. Any naturalized person in the United States that is classified as being a Negro, Black person, colored, or African American is, in fact, an ipso Jewish Moorish subject or protege pursuant with the Madrid Convention of 1880, inter alia.
So we're identifying the parties must be known, and we're identifying the proper parties to the contract. And as it relates to Black people, colored people, African Americans, even Moorish Americans, which we go to next on number 6, the proper terminology for these people, or for our people, or for us when we were in a subjugated status was Moorish subject, or an ipso jure Moorish subject.
Point of interest, Abdul, when you get done.
Yeah, hold on a second. So there's no more of this black colored crayon game. They must be referred to as Moorish subjects. See, that color game was being played on us so that we don't realize or learn about our true status as a Moorish subject. Because if we learned that, if we knew that to be the case, we would have a starting point to solve our problems. But Black is not relating to anything, so therefore it puts you in a lost state of mind. The lost tribes of Israel, the lost tribes of Shabazz, because they don't know their true identity. And if it wasn't for Noble, we wouldn't know that we were Moroccan, not Moorish American. Go ahead, brother.
Is that the same in meaning as free white person in Black's Law Dictionary when they got all the nationalities of naturalized United States? I mean, when United States naturalized certain groups of different ethnics, I would say. Well, I would say different countries that they listed in Black's Law Dictionary. I mean, in definition of the free white person. Is that the same as what we're talking about right now?
I'm going to let you answer your own question. There goes the definition. This is the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Free white persons. Will you read that for me, please?
Okay. Free white persons. Free white persons referred to the Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14, 1870, has meaning naturally given, and when first
To it.
used.
It's to it. It says to it, but it's misspelled. Yeah.
When first used in 1 Stat 103 C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races, then commonly counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated.
Okay, so what are these Europeans? Continue.
It includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with people of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. It includes Magyars,
Yeah.
Lapps, and Finns, and the Basques, and Albanians. It includes the mixed Latin Celtic Iberian and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, the mixed Greek Latin Phoenicians and North American inhabitants of Sicily, and the mixed Slav and Tatar inhabitants of South Russia. It does not mean Caucasian race, Aryan race, or Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian peoples who inhabit Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent would not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person.
Okay. Did you see Moroccan there anywhere?
No, and I think when Moors use that, I see this a lot. When they say Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, I think they kind of used that when Moors uh, gave civilization to when they inhabited Spain and gave the Europeans the civilization of the land. I think they used that point as directed to us, but it always confused me because it doesn't seem as we are national people. It means that it's almost like you're being, when I first started understanding, you're being naturalized to someone that's just appointing you or granting you some privilege. That's how I used to think about it. It never made sense to me. That's why I was asking.
Okay, well, keep it simple. What is the contract that brought the United States of America and the Moors together? The Treaty of Peace and Friendship. You agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. So in that contract, there's but two parties. That would be the Americans and the Moroccans. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. And in that contract, the Moroccans are the dominant party, and the Americans are the subordinate parties in that contract. Would you agree with that?
The Moroccans is the dominant party?
Correct.
Correct, yes.
And the Americans are the subordinate parties. So the Moroccans are the landlords, and the Americans are the tenants. They're supposed to be paying rent in the form of taxes. That's the bottom line. Nothing else to talk about. All this color game crap, free white persons, black. I don't care about none of that. The dominant nationality is Moroccan, and that's the bottom line, my good brother. And Moroccan law is what's supposed to reign supreme on this land, and the United States are subject to set laws.
Correct. And
That's
see,
all.
and I know listening to Jay, he always talk about status as well as Taj Tariq. And I thought that meant the status they put us in as far as how this free white person is defined. It makes it seem like it put us in not a national state as far
Well,
as status.
a free white person is a naturalized U.S. citizen anyway.
Okay.
Your suspicion was correct. But what gives you the ultimate authority? What nationality gives you the ultimate authority? That's what we need to be focused on, and that would be Moroccan. Period. Nothing else, nothing more. That simple. And we must operate through the empire as Moroccans, utilizing Moroccan law um, as the law to govern the Americans and all the peoples within the Empire of Morocco. Understood?
Yes, sir. I got that.
All right. So now let's go on to subsection 6, good brother.
6. Moorish Americans are descendants of Moroccans who are naturalized in American jurisdiction under the Naturalization Act of 1870 and the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Also, the Moorish American has not chosen between the entire submission to the laws of the empire as set forth in the Treaty of Madrid, 1880, Article 15, Paragraph 1.
So we are looking out for the Moorish Americans as well. We're looking out for everybody. We're not against our people. We don't have beef with the Moorish Americans. We care about our people. However, Noble Ali told us that we are hard heads, stiff necks. Moorish Americans are hard headed. They don't want to listen, and they're rude, right? So they'll give you pushback, and when they give you pushback because they feel you're going against the prophet, it's not going to be nice. They're mean people. Noble said it. Moors are mean, man. And so you got to have thick skin when dealing with our people, right? But it's all in love. We're just trying to course correct you to get you to understand. Come check out these reference points. Pull them up. Go read them for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. That's the problem. We've been in fellowship for far too long. When are we going to get into scholarship and start studying for ourselves? Man knows not by being told. Okay, that means that whatever you're told, you gotta go fact check it. So if I tell you something and I give you the reference points, fact check me. And then come back and tell me I'm wrong. That's the intelligent way of doing things, not uttering statements such as, I don't know about all that. The nobles say that. That's not only is it irritating, but it's ignorant as hell. Noble left us in 1929. The world has moved on. It's 2023. While y'all flying that flag, Noble didn't bring that flag. Noble brought that whenever Noble appeared with that flag, it was between 1912 and 1956, 1950. Well, it's in 1913, right? But by 1956, it became somebody else's flag through a constitution. So we can't stand on that anymore. That's old news. See, that's the old Moors who need to be placed in the back. They're standing on old stuff. It's a new paradigm. It's a new world. It's a new day and time. And we have to keep up with the trends or the new way of the world. We can't be stuck in what was going on in 1913. It's 2023. It's 100 years later. What's going on today is the question. And today, the Kingdom of Morocco have claimed that constitution, that flag through their constitution, and is recognized across planet Earth. It's flying at the United Nations, representing the Kingdom of Morocco, not the Moors of the West. Definitely not Moorish Americans. So for us to continue flying that flag is fraud. So we had to redesign the flag, you see? It's called competency, based in well-settled principles of law, not opinions in literature. Islam. So that's all we're going to read on the Trusteeship Council. We're not here to read the Trusteeship Council. I just wanted to show you all that just as the United Nations had a Trusteeship Council, which went inactive, I think in '96, became something else. It became another committee. I think it's C24, right, to help with decolonization. But it's a funky committee. It's not doing its job as the Trusteeship Council did. So we decided to create our own Trusteeship Council and oversee our own trust territories on behalf of our own people. In other words, we moved the colonists off the chessboard. And they all got the notice from the WRC. Each trust territory, i.e. each chartered colony, i.e. each state of whatever, has received correspondence from the WRC informing them of this fact. And they haven't given any pushback. We don't talk about our progress publicly, our internal affairs. So I just slipped one out real quick for y'all, just so y'all know. We're on the job. Islam. So let's go back to where was I? Oh, wrong side. Hold on, I'm sorry. Let's go to the Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and People. This came out in 1960. The Moorish Science Temple of America was in full operation during this time. The Black Panthers was coming in, and all the other Negro groups was coming in, making way more noise in the temples, by the way. It wasn't until I was 35 that I learned about the Moorish Science Temple of America. 35. In my teenage years is when I heard about the temple, the Panthers and all the revolutionaries of the time. They ain't heard or learned nothing about a fez or a temple. So what, did they go in hiding? Did they go in secret? Did they get punked by J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI? Told them, y'all shut up and sit down somewhere? You're not going to release these keys or these secrets to these people? Is this what happened? Because you guys were around. The temples was around. 1960. Why ain't y'all teaching about the Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples? Resolution 1514 of the United Nations. I believe that's why a lot of assassination took place during that time. It was a wave, just like the United Nations said. It was a wave of decolonization taking place all across planet Earth, except for the United States. So what? The noble Jew wasted time coming to bring us the information only for the temple Moors that came after his assassination to bury the information and play church, shouting and hollering, singing psalms and gospel songs. We were supposed to be learning about these things in the temple so that we can then come up out of the temple to then establish the national side of the movement, which is your governments. Come back into the constitutional fold of government, the divine and national side. The temples don't represent the national side because it's not a state. It represents the divine side and the divine side only, who were missing the other half that wasn't told. And that was the other half of that information that was required was to establish the national governments. Period. But we were sold out. And the day will come when they will pay for their genocide against the people. I promise that. Go ahead, Wazir, with the read. Yes.
I just want to touch on, you said there was a lot of killings going on. Was it because they omitted the word Moroccan nationality, and so now they had all the right to start assassinating us? I yield.
Well, according to the Treaty of Madrid, Article 15, Paragraph 2, all the laws of the country apply to you without any restrictions. However, I mean, it's not. I mean, that's a hard question. I don't want to say that it's by law they could just kill us like that, right? But all I can say is that we were subject to their civil and criminal jurisdiction, and no other state can intervene with the operations of another state. So Brazil can't say, hey, United States, you guys are wrong for that. We're going to do something about this. They can't do that. They can't intervene with the internal affairs of another state. But what I can say is that it was an attempt to keep us away from this information. Some people were bought off, other people were killed off. That's what was going on in the 60s. Do not allow these Moors to get to this information, because if they get to this information, we're through. They have control over everything. And they didn't want that to be let out. There's a book, as I've pointed out before, 10 years of secret diplomacy. Secret diplomacy dealing with the act of Algeciras. They didn't want that to come out. That's 1906. These are all the AMPAG study sessions and these classes, these Sunday discussions from AMPAG is simply this: us exposing the Illuminati secret. Dig that. That's all it is. All this stuff is Illuminati secret. Not the New World Order and Satanism and the Rothschilds, no. The treaties, Moroccan identity, and the historical events that took place over a period of time that shaped international law to become what it is today. That was a long answer, but I hope I answered your questions, brother. Go ahead, Wazir.
1514, Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonial Countries and Peoples. The General Assembly, mindful of the determination proclaimed by the peoples of the world in the Charter of the United Nations, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women, and nations large and small, and to promote social progress and better standards of life and larger freedom. Conscious conscious of the need for the creation of conditions of stability and well-being and peaceful and friendly relations based on respect for the principles of equal rights and self-determination of all peoples, of, of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion.
Okay, hold right there. I remember the last interview that Il Malik Shabazz had. It was with this American. Let's get the proper concept. You can say white American if you want. And in it, he said that he's going to the United Nations to discuss matters dealing with human rights as opposed to civil rights. Because remember, during that time, the Moors were fighting for civil rights. Well, but Il Malik was wise enough to recognize that we needed to be dealing with human rights. Okay, what does it say right here on the second paragraph of the preamble? Okay, conscious of the need for the creation of conditions of stability and well-being and peaceful and friendly relations based on respect for the principles of equal rights and self-determination of all peoples, and of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. The Moors were dealing with all that over here in the 60s. But we were being brought to civil rights by Martin Luther King, etc. When in reality, the fight and the argument was based in human rights. But then the only way for you to gain human rights is through your self-determination. And your self-determination is based in you establishing your states. Declaration of Independence and a Constitution. And the Constitution sets up your three branches of government. And through your three branches of government, you hold the United States accountable. It now becomes state-on-state dispute. That's the process. The temples can't do nothing about this because the temples is an organization under the state of Illinois. Everybody knows about the Herds revised statutes. It's on the back of the 101s, a whole affidavit. It has no power and authority over the United States. It's subject to the United States, for crying out loud. Goodness gracious. We got to study. And we got to study the right stuff. International law and statehood. And the historical events that took place that shaped international law and statehood as it is today. Not J.A. Rogers or Ivan Van Sertima or some book or literature or dictionary or frickin' Quran or Bible. International law is the colonists' kryptonite. They always end up on the losing end when you invoke international law. So that's what we need to be invoking against them. If we want our liberation. If we want reparations. This is the name of the game. These are the instructions. Every game has a set of instructions. If you run around with the ball, holding the ball, and you don't dribble, that's travel. Or carry, actually. If you take more than 2 steps, you take 3, 4 steps, that's travel. If you're defending the wide receiver and you grab onto him, that's holding. I mean, you just got to know the rules of the game. And the rules of the game for decolonization is statehood, Moors, and international law. Go ahead, brother, recognizing
the passionate yearning for freedom in all dependent peoples, the decisive role of such peoples in the attainment of their independence.
Recognizing the passionate yearning for freedom. Then the Moors had a passionate yearning for freedom in the 60s. Recognizing the passionate yearning for freedom in all dependent peoples and the decisive role of such peoples in the attainment of their independence. It's not enforce their constitution. It's not their internal laws. The cover of the 101 shows Noble stepping away from that, going onto Moroccan jurisdiction. about their laws. It's about international law and your body of laws, your legislation, your body of laws that was passed through your legislative branch to the executive branch to then become law, so that now your judicial branch can enforce said laws, and then in doing so, the state establishes your justice. Can somebody mute their mics, please? Thank you. This is how you establish your justice. It's through your judicial branch, your own justices, your own judges, your own law, and your own law enforcement is how you enforce your justice. So we never could have gotten justice and peace if we didn't have our own three branches of government to uphold those protections on behalf of the people. We have been void of a government, i.e., we fell out of the constitutional fold of government. So therefore, he said, I call on all you true Americans to help me get my people back into the constitutional fold of government. Did y'all really study Noble Ali the proper way? Or did you study him with misconcepts? I'll let you come to your own conclusion on that. Go ahead, brother. Considering or aware, actually.
Aware of the increasing conflicts resulting from the denial of or impediments in the way of the freedom of such peoples, which constitutes a serious threat to world peace. Considering the important role of the United Nations in assisting the movement for independence and trust and
non-self-governing?
Hold up, my phone, the screen went out because it needed a charge. Let me see what non-self-governing. Okay, yeah, non-self-governing territories. Yeah, okay, recognizing that the peoples of the world ardently desire the end of colonialism in all its manifestations.
Okay, so the evil Illuminati, Rothschild, Rockefeller, United Nations said that they recognize that all the peoples of the world ardently desire the end of colonialism in all its manifestations. So all the other peoples on planet Earth that were under colonial rule knew about this except us. Anybody who has heard about this before the WRC started teaching about this, please speak on that. Because I spent 8 years in the movement. I ain't heard nothing about none of this. I knew about res judicata, though. I knew about their constitution. I knew about USC 18 subsection code, whatever statute. I knew about Resolution 75, which is a trick bag, by the way. We didn't learn about these things. We were told that the United Nations were evil. Yet the United Nations is recognizing that the peoples of the world ardently desire the end of colonialism in all its manifestations. This is crazy. Go ahead, brother. Convinced?
Okay. Convinced that the continued existence of colonialism prevents the development of international economic cooperation, impairs the social culture and economic development of dependent peoples, and militates against the United Nations ideal of universal peace, affirming that peoples may, for their own ends, freely dispose of their natural wealth and resources without prejudice to any obligations arising out of international economic cooperation based upon the principles of mutual benefits and international law. Believing that the process of liberation is irresistible and irreversible, and that in order to avoid serious crisis, an end must be put to colonialism, and all practices of segregation and discrimination associated therewith.
Oh,
Welcome.
really? And we didn't know nothing about that. Were we not dealing with all types of colonial practices of segregation and discrimination? This water fountain is for the white man. That water fountain is for colored people. Were we not dealing with that? During the same time that others were doing something about it, which was decolonizing, they picked up their pen and they got to work. We instead were just marching around. But why were we marching around? Because our leaders led us in that direction of marching around and all this white man devil crap. Instead of talking about these documents, the Nation of Islam decided to talk about all the white men are the devils and blue-eyed devils, and it was all a distraction. It was putting us in the status of hate, the opposite of what Noble taught him to do, which was love instead of hate. So now he's coming out here pumping out this hate for the white man, the blue-eyed devils, etc. Man, ain't nothing worse than a nappy head devil. How about that? If there, for every blue-eyed devil that exists, the nappy head devil is the worst, because you're selling out your own people. But not Farrakhan got slick hair. He's not a nappy. He's a slick hair devil, a slick hair Negro devil with a part on the side. The black man and the black man, this and that, and you know we ain't black. That Fez was established by the Moors. That Fez is for the Moors, and he's talking as if the Moors aren't right there in his audience, as if that's a whole nother people. No, what you should have been saying is that Fez was designed and is supposed to be worn by you in this crowd. This is your national headdress. No, he didn't put it out that way. He put it out like the Moors were somebody else. And your congregation, the members that's sitting right before you while you're saying this crap, are the Moors. Fool. Don't get me started. I'm sorry. All right. Welcoming
The emergence in recent years of a large number of dependent territories into freedom and independence, and recognizing the increasing powerful trends towards freedom in such territories which have not yet attained independence.
I gotta move it to the side. Hold up. Okay. Convinced
that all peoples have an inalienable right to complete freedom, the exercise of their sovereignty, and the integrity of their national territory.
So we talk about inalienable and unalienable rights that the United States Constitution afford us as a people. But international law and this particular resolution is talking about a whole nother set of inalienable rights. Like, come on, man. Convinced that all peoples have an inalienable right to complete freedom, the exercise of their sovereignty, and the integrity of their national territory. That's statehood, Morse. How do you gain your complete freedom? By the exercise of your sovereignty and independence and the integrity of your national territory, which is the integrity of your domains. So this particular paragraph is highlighting the first two of the three principles: sovereignty and independence, integrity of domains, exercise of their sovereignty, and the integrity of their national territory. Okay? It's okay what they've done. It is what it is. It's 2023. We got to move on. We got to keep moving forward and put the old Moors in the back. And we have to take our destiny into our own hands. And this is the answer to the test. We finally came across the answer to the test. Honors to the good brother, Chief Judge of Consular Court for Elodia Morris Pereira, Monte, Colorado, J. Jermaine Bay, for pointing out these truths that allowed me and others to go behind and follow those reference points and study them ourselves so that we can now do something about it on two levels. One, actually put the governments together to move forward with decolonization, and two, teach the people about it. Oh, and there's a third point. We teach the people how to do all of this for free. Knowledge is free at the WRC. Why? Because we are all in this together. This ain't RV Bay. This ain't member dues from the temple. We don't ask for Cash App donations and none of that. We ask for your hard work, determination, discipline to get this thing done. Trust the process. Some of you, it's November. I started talking to some of you since last November. You've already had your inaugurations and all these things. And you still haven't fully pulled the trigger. You are delaying your own justice, Moors. Because in all actuality, there should be 9 states right now. Oh, but ain't nobody rushing you. Take your sweet little time. Just know, like I said already, you're delaying your own justice. Unnecessarily too, by the way, because many have already came before you and done it for you. So there's really no excuse. Go ahead, brother.
Solemnly proclaims the necessity of bringing to a speedy and unconditional end colonialism in all its forms and manifestations, and to this end declares that 1. The subjection of peoples to alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights, is contrary to the Charter of the United Nations, and is an impediment to the promotion of world peace and cooperation. 2. All persons have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development.
So that's a political statement, right? All peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status. How do you determine your political status? Well, your constitution tells the world what your political status is. For us, it's Moroccan, your nationality, right? The structure of your government, etc. That's the proper written instrument, which becomes international law, right? Once it's deposited with the United Nations or registered with the Secretariat of the United Nations. And then guess what happens? The United Nations job then is to turn around and publish it to all the other countries on planet Earth, specifically the 193 member states of the United Nations. So that means that 193 countries know about AMPAG, New Mecca, Serum, Maru, AMPAM, DIMTY, and the WRC. They know who we are. And all the heads of all the principals, the president of the United States, and all the governors, all the principals of the United States, they know who we are too. They know my name very well, right? We have corresponded with these people. And like I said, the United Nations has informed the whole world. Right? So that's us practicing our right to self-determination and to determine our own political status and freely pursue our own economic, social, and cultural development. That's what that means. What else does that mean? It means active, not passive. For the past 100 years, we've been screaming, active, not passive, but we've been passive the whole time. We're active now. Who's active now? The 3rd and 4th generation coming in with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, to put these old Moors in the back, way in the back. Enjoy the back window, sir. Go ahead, brother.
Inadequacy of political, economic, social, or educational preparedness should never serve as a pretext for delaying independence. 4.
Period. Period. The inadequacy of political, economic, social, or educational preparedness should never serve as a pretext for delaying independence. So what we're doing the most. We're coming at them with the WRC and all kind of stuff. Trusteeship Council. Because we're not here to win. What are we here to do, Kendon?
Dominate.
We here to crush them. Go ahead, brother number 4.
All armed
Peacefully.
actions or repressive measures of all kinds directed against dependent peoples shall cease in order to enable them to exercise peacefully and freely their rights to complete independence, and the integrity of their national territory shall be respected. 5. Immediate steps shall be taken in trust and non-self-governed territories or all other territories which have not yet attained independence to transfer all powers to the peoples of those territories without any conditions or reservations in accordance with their freely expressed will and desire.
Pull right there before I scroll up. I mean, I don't know how more clear this particular subsection needs to be. A third grader can read that and get an understanding, the proper interpretation as to what the purpose of Resolution 1514 is all about. But Malik was a very intelligent human being, right? Martin Luther King was a very intelligent human being. The Grand Sheiks are very intelligent human beings. Elijah Muhammad was an intelligent human being. The Moors in general are very intelligent human beings. And you're gonna sit here and tell me that some of our leadership didn't know nothing about this and didn't read number 5 and understood how germane that paragraph is to our condition, amongst others that we read, the other areas within this document, right? It says immediate steps shall be taken in trust in non-self-governing territories or all other territories which have not yet attained independence. Well, we hadn't yet attained independence. We haven't attained it, right? And so what is the job? For them to transfer all powers to the people. Isn't that what the Panthers used to say? All power to the people? Well, they forgot a statement. Transfer all power to the people. That's what they were supposed to be saying, right? Transfer all power to the people of those territories without any conditions or reservations in accordance with their freely expressed will and desire. We had the game on lock in the 60s, and we didn't do nothing with it because we were sold out. Okay, brother, you may continue. Any distinction as to race?
Any distinction as to race, creed, or color in order to enable them to enjoy complete independence and freedom.
Period. 6. Complete independence and freedom. Not partial independence, and complete independence and freedom. That's what we wanted all our lives, was complete independence and freedom. That's all we was asking for. And our leader guys had us in church paying tithes and offerings and expecting for Jesus or whoever to come save us. We were supposed to save ourselves through self-determination. But before we could come to that conclusion and then act upon it, we needed to know about it. And we didn't know about it. And sadly, and unfortunately, another 100 years passed. Well, since the 60s, I don't know how many years, less than 100, I guess, but several generations have passed. And this is where we're at today. So now we got to pick up the ball that everyone else fumbled and get through that scrimmage line. And that's what this is all about, Morris. So if you're tired of delaying your own justice, if you're tired of colonialism, if you're tired of being sold out, if you're tired of being under the boots, the boot that the United States got on us, you know what I'm saying? If you're tired of their civil and criminal jurisdiction, if you're tired of traffic court, you're tired of their taxes, if you're tired of whatever other pain points that you have in dealing with the United States, then choose between the entire submission to the laws of the empire. Petition the WRC, and we will help you for free. There's no cost to gain liberation other than the cost of the time that it takes for you to do the work and study so that you understand what's being done. Islam, go ahead, brother, number 6.
6. Any attempt aimed at the partial or total disruption of the national unity and the territorial integrity of a country is incompatible with the purpose and principles of the Charter of the United Nations. 7. All states shall observe faithfully and strictly the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the present declaration on the basis of equality, non-interference in the internal affairs of all states, and respect for the sovereign rights of all peoples and their territorial integrity.
Period. And that's the end of it. Short, simple, and straight to the point, without any deviation. All states, all the states, that includes the United States, all states shall observe faithfully and strictly the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the present declaration on the basis of equality, non-interference in the internal affairs of all states. That includes our several Moroccan states, and respect for the sovereign rights of all peoples. How do you gain your sovereign rights? Through your state. If you don't gain your sovereign rights through your state, and you think you're going to exercise it as an individual, that's what makes you a sovereign citizen, Moors. So yes, all of you who are out there enforcing the Constitution, all doing all this civic Moor stuff, Jamal, they're all sovereign citizens. The United States ain't lying to them. They're just not telling them how they're sovereign citizens. Your sovereignty comes through the state. It is all the people combined together in one state of mind, putting together their constitution. That's the state. And through the enactment of that constitution, the people give the powers to their combined powers. They bring their combined powers to establish the 3 branches of government, the actual government, and extend those powers to the government officials to represent them domestically and internationally. And that's how you become a sovereign. Because you're one of many, not you by your damn self, Moors. And that's the difference between a state and a government. The government works for the state. The state is the people. The government is the body that conducts the affairs on behalf of the people, i.e. the state. Any questions about anything that we've covered thus far? Comments, questions, concerns? I yield.
Islam Nobel. You made a statement which a bit surprised to me that up to present there's only actually 7 to 9 active states inducted within the WRC. Now, it is aware to my knowledge that there have been several other territories that have thus far completed their inauguration. Is it within your rank to state as to why the delay or hindrance as to why the several other territories who have done their inauguration has not been inducted within the WRC yet?
It would be for me to speak on that publicly on a deep or should I say detailed level, will be inappropriate.
Islam,
And
Islam.
not only that, but each territory, as you see in the convention, they all have their own circumstances. Each territory has its own circumstances as they go through their varying stages of advancement. So it's not all the exact same thing. It's all different reasons. So that's your answer to both of those. It's inappropriate, but then also it's not black and white either. So
Islam.
it's like,
Point of privilege, I'd like to add on to that. The WRC, like the United Nations, the WRC can't recognize a state. So that's like a misconception, even though it's a part of the process, what you think of, but it doesn't come from that. The WRC can't recognize you. So whatever, relationship your state may have with the WRC, that doesn't mean necessarily that, okay, I'm a state now. That's like a process that happens, like a bilateral. You got multilateral, bilateral, unilateral. That's like a bilateral agreement. When you start getting those receiving recognition letters from just say an independent state will be empty, then you're getting into a recognition status. But just because you do inauguration, doesn't just necessarily mean okay, the WRC is going to recognize me, and now I'm going to be a state. I hope I kind of you understand that a little bit. Islam.
Yeah, I understand what your Kendor in its comprehension, but
well, let me bring further clarity. Hold on, let me bring further before it goes further. Let me bring further clarity. The brother is correct, but you can misunderstand a certain point. When we talk about recognition from the WRC, it doesn't mean what it means is this: recognizing your state to be a member state of the WRC.
Absolutely.
So that recognition does come from the WRC. If a Moroccan state petitions the WRC, then it would be the WRC it would be on the WRC to recognize that particular state based on a vetting process to determine that they have full powers that's found in good and due form. So that now we can recognize them as being member states of the WRC to serve on the council with the other several Moroccan states. And but also the recognition, as Wazir Kenan was pointing out, the state-on-state recognition comes from the several independent Moroccan states that are part of the WRC. I hope I brought further clarity to that.
Yes,
Islam,
I'm fully aware.
Islam, can you hear me?
Yes.
This Mia Moore Bay. Also, it's a lot of more boxes has to be checked after the inauguration. So just even for you to be recognizing and be forming your state yourself. Inauguration ain't the all in all. It's a lot of more things after that, brother.
No, I'm fully aware. My concern is, as the brother stated earlier, as the council Wazir just stated a few moments ago, is the paralysis based on the fact that several other states have completed their process and seek recognition, and it's been several months now since we have been stuck at 7. So with the, I was just concerned trying to catch up on activity going on as to if there is a particular reason, but then the Wazir explained that each state's status and situation is different.
It's different.
That's your input, sister.
And ultimately, not just that, but we got to also recognize that things are as they are for a reason. Allah don't make mistakes.
Islam.
States, that's circle 7. We completed the first cycle. The next 7 states represent the second cycle of the establishment of the WRC and therefore the enactment of the empire. So the next 7 states, they represent the second cycle. We got 7 now, so it's circle 7. We good. We don't need 13 states. We don't need all 50 states. With 7 states, we can shut down the United States. Period. However, we would like to have more of the Moors coming together to make this thing more powerful, right? But we can make it happen with 7. Let's just put it this way: we're not stopping, we're not slowing down, we're still moving forward as if we got 50. We plan as if we got 50 states, even though we only got 7. But that's the power of Moroccan law. That's the power of us as a people under the identity of a Moroccan enforcing the Moroccan treaties and Moroccan law and international law and consular court, which gives power to your consular court. Any other questions? Before we move on to Article 2, we ended last week on Article 1, and there's a lot to discuss in between, before even getting to the articles, and so, it's looking like it's going to take us forever, but we did need to talk about Resolution 1514 because it deals with decolonization. And we've already spoke about Resolution 1514 several times, but there's a lot of new people, some of which are coming off of Facebook. So I'm trying, my best to catch them up with where we're at, right? In terms of the erudition that's been provided over a year's time now. I think it's been about a year since we've been doing these Sunday sessions. So I thought it was critical for the more to understand about and know about Resolution 1514. If you go back and you look at AMPAG study session 123, Jay Bay speaks on that as well. So I highly recommend that you go back to the AMPAG Media YouTube channel and go look at the latest video, which is study session 123. Islam, okay. Brother Kenny, you want to go ahead with Article 2?
Okay. Article 2. The organization and its members, in pursuant of the purpose stated in Article 1, shall act in accordance with the following principles. 1. The organization is based on the principles of the sovereign equality of all its members. 2. All members, in order to ensure to all of them the rights and benefits resulting from membership, shall fulfill in good faith the obligations assumed by them in accordance with the present charter. 3. All members shall settle their international disputes by peaceful means in such a manner that international peace and security and justice are not endangered. 4. All members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any other manner inconsistent with the purpose of the United Nations. 5. All members shall give the United Nations every assistance in any action it takes in accordance with the present charter and shall refrain from giving assistance to any state against which the United Nations is taking preventive or enforcement action. 6. Organizations shall ensure that states which are not members of the United Nations act in accordance with these principles so far as may be necessary for the maintenance of international peace and security. 7. Contained in the present charter shall authorize the United Nations to intervene in matters which are essentially within the domestic jurisdiction of any state, or shall require the members to submit such matters to settlement under the present charter. But this principle shall not prejudice the application of enforcement measures under chapter, what chapter is that? Family, y'all help me.
7.
You say what?
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Mm-hmm. And I believe Chapter 7 is the Pacific Settlement of Disputes. Right. Let's verify that since we have it. Chapter 7. Okay, it's action with respect to threats to the peace, breaches of the peace, and acts of aggression. That's what that one is. Which Jay Bay has went over this, and we will get to it when we get to it. But this is important also to understand: action with respect to threats to the peace, breaches of the peace, and acts of aggression. So anything that the United States do against any one of our Moroccan states that's based in action with respect to threats to the peace, breaches of the peace, or acts of aggression, like, I don't know, detaining one of our government officials, right? Kidnapping one of our, because see, now you're talking about kidnapping when you're talking about state-on-state disputes. If a Moorish American gets arrested by the United States, that's not kidnapping, that's an arrest. You're a citizen, for crying out loud. No matter how much you might want to say, you have no jurisdiction over me. Yes, I do. You're going to jail. And that's how come they always end up going to jail. It's not kidnapping, it's an arrest. It's a kidnapping when that person is actually a national of another state, right? And they're violating international law, not allowing consular notification and access, etc., things of that nature. But we'll cover that as we continue to read. Go back to Article Chapter 1. Now we're in Chapter 2, membership. Well, go ahead. You go with that, Article 3.
Article 3. The original members of the United Nations shall be the states which, having participated in the United Nations Conference on International Organization at San Francisco, or having previously signed the declaration by the United Nations of 1 January 1942, signed the present charter and ratified it in accordance with Article 110.
Okay. So Article 110 is giving you, so they're telling us to look at Article 110, essentially, right? So what does Article 110 say? It's based on ratification and signature. These are the instructions. So Article 110, 1, the present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. These are the things that we have to start learning, right? We got to change our vernacular, right? We got to change the literature to change the people. Well, the WRC is working hard to change the literature of the people so that the conditions of the people would change. Now you need to start talking and thinking and understanding terms like constitutional processes, uti possidetis juris, just cogents, etc. This is language that's not part of our lexicon. These are words that's not part of our lexicon, not part of our language, our everyday usage. And the day it becomes so will be the day that we would never lose the empire again. So the present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional processes. 2, the ratifications shall be deposited with the government of the United States of America, which shall notify all the signatory states of each deposit, as well as the Secretary General of the organization when he has been appointed. Now, keep in mind, this is the original draft of the charter back in 1945. Today, the depository is no longer the United States of America. It's now the Secretary General of the United Nations. As you see here, they didn't even have one yet as the Secretary General of the organization when he has been appointed. They hadn't even appointed one yet. But it goes to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, in today's instructions. Then it goes on to say, 3, the present charter shall come into force upon the deposit of ratifications by the Republic of China, France, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the United States, and by majority of the other signatory states. A protocol of the ratification deposited shall thereupon be drawn up by the government of the United States of America, which shall communicate copies thereof to all the signatory states. So this is the process of bringing it into full force, you see? Everybody got to sign it, deposit it, that type of thing. These are the instructions on how to play this game. 4, the states signatory to the present charter, which ratify it after it has come into force, will become original members of the United Nations on the date of the deposit of their respective ratification. And that's the process, right? Today, for us, for anyone coming into statehood, the process is not the same as that, right? It's different. It's called accessions. You have to accede to the documents, to the treaties. Where was I? Where were we? On 2. You got to accede to the treaties. You got to accede to these documents. You got to accede to these treaties, conventions, right? It's through accessions now that you become a signatory power. Through accession is when you now are able to put the name of your state as part of the signatory powers, right? That then turns around and it gives you the power to invoke the treaty against any other state. So you can't invoke the Treaty of Peace and Friendship as a Moorish American because, for one, you're just an individual. 2, you're not a state. 3, you haven't acceded to it to then give you the authority to even speak on it. There's a process involved. There's a due process involved in that you must undertake before you're even able to invoke the treaties, Moors. This is international law. This is an international law class. Do we have any questions? Are you guys understanding what I'm saying? I yield to any questions.
I just want to point that out, what you just stated. So just, everybody on the call, just think of what he's saying. Okay, I have to go through a process to even be able to, say, enforce this treaty. But right now I'm in front of the judge as a Moorish American telling him what he can't do to me. But he knows this process behind the scenes. But you standing on your square. Now you see why they say he need a mental, see something wrong with him. That's why they say that, because they have instructions. But that I yield.
And they're not telling us the instructions. They're saying, oh, you're just badly privileged. Oh, you're just a sovereign citizen, but they ain't saying why you're a sovereign citizen. Oh, you're a plaintiff in error, Dred Scott, but he didn't tell Dred Scott why he was a plaintiff in error. You're a plaintiff in error because you're supposed to be petitioning consular court, not our Supreme Court. We are the Americans. You are the Moroccans. Go talk to your Moroccan government. Why are you coming talking to me, sir? But instead of telling him that, they just say, oh, you're a plaintiff in error, and then they proceeded to enact the Naturalization Act of 1870 to allow all the Moors now, subjugate all the Moors as naturalized citizens so that now they can utilize the Supreme Court, because before then they wouldn't be able to do so. And then that means then that the time would come where they would have to tell them that they would have to make them aware of the other jurisdiction, which is the Moroccan Empire, that they needed to petition. So they said, all right, let's just make it to where they could use our courts. That way they don't ask any questions, you see? And we can subjugate them that way, make them Americans. And I'm proud to be an American. And now we're that today, especially the Moorish Americans. At least Black people reject the American identity. They think they're African. I could work with that a little bit better. But to stand on this American thing, come on, man. There's 2 separate nations, the Mohammedan nations and the Christian nations, i.e. the Moors and the Americans, period. Any questions? Okay, brother, you can continue on with subsection 2. Or I think it's 1. It's 2. It's actually 2.
2.
Yeah, no, this is Article 4. I'm tripping. Hold up. My bad. I think we started with 3. Chapter 2. Yeah, right here. Okay, we are on 4. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
4. Number 1. Membership in the United Nations is open to all other peace-loving states which accept the obligations contained in the present charter and in the judgment of the organization are able and willing to carry out these obligations. 2. The admission of any state to membership in the United Nations will be affected by a decision of the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. 5. A member of the United Nations against which preventive or enforcement actions has been taken by the Security Council may be suspended from the exercise of the rights and privileges of membership by the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. The exercise of these rights and privileges may be restored by the Security Council. 6. A member of the United Nations which has persistently violated the principles contained in the present charter may be expelled from the organization by the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council.
All right. Chapter 3.
Organs. Article 7. There are established as principal organs of the United Nations a General Assembly, a Security Council, an Economic and Social Council, a Trusteeship Council, an International Court of Justice, and a Secretariat. 2. Such subsidiary organs as may be found necessary may be established in accordance with the present charter.
And by the way, that's essentially how the WRC is set up. We have but it's in different terms. The Security Council would really be the Wazir Council itself, right? The International Court of Justice would be the Regional Supreme Court. You've got a Trusteeship Council, right? And so essentially we set up the WRC to operate in similar fashion as the United Nations, but for the Moors in the West, the Maghreb al-Aqsa, right? That are within these several trust territories known as the several states, right? In each of those trust territories, state of whatever, has inhabitants who haven't come to the full measure of government yet. And the United States, up until now, has been overseeing those territories. And so we have come in through the WRC to take control over those territories, but limited to just simply assisting those Moors to decolonize. We don't have criminal and civil jurisdiction over the area, but we have the authority over the decolonization process if any Moor steps up as a political group forming to establish their states to form decolonization. To force decolonization. I hope that explains things better for those listening. All right, Article 8.
Article 8. The United Nations have placed no restrictions on the eligibility of men and women to participate in any capacity and under conditions of equality in its principal and subsidiary organs. The General Assembly. Composition, Article 9. 1. The General Assembly shall consist of all the members of the United Nations. 2. Each member shall have not more than 5 representatives in the General Assembly. Functions and powers. Article 10. The General Assembly may discuss any questions or any matters within the scope of the present charter or relating to the powers and functions of any organs provided for in the present charter, and except as provided in Article 12, may make recommendations to the members of the United Nations or to the Security Council or to both on any such questions or matters. Article 11. 1. The General Assembly may consider the general principles of cooperation in the maintenance of international peace and security, including the principles governing disarmament, and the regulations of armament, and may make recommendations with regard to such principles to the members or to the Security Council or to both. 2. The General Assembly may discuss any questions relating to the maintenance of international peace and security brought before it by any member of the United Nations or by the Security Council or by a state which is not a member of the United Nations in accordance with Article 35, Paragraph 2, and except as provided in Article 12, may make recommendations with regard to any such questions to to the state or states concerned, or to the Security Council, or to both. Any such questions on which action is necessary shall be referred to the Security Council by the General Assembly, either before or after discussion.
Okay, let me say this real quick. So these are the bylaws. This is what sets forth the United Nations operations, how they operate. This is their operations on paper. This is how we're going to move. This is how we're going to operate. This is how we're going to govern these several member states, which means this is how we're going to maintain peace and security on planet Earth. That being the case, think of the Moors really studying with the same energy that they put into everything else. And the same energy that we put into United States laws, the energy that we put into the Circle 7 and the teachings of Prophet Noble Jew Ali. If we spend that energy, the same energy we put into getting a doctorate degree, right? So that we can be a doctor or be a lawyer or whatever, right? We put that energy into understanding and learning the ins and outs as to how the United Nations operate, what their purpose is, and the principles of international law. We would be an unstoppable people. The reason why we would be such an unstoppable people is not just the erudition and the knowledge, but also the fact that we have something that nobody else has as Moors. And these are treaties. And treaties, especially the Act of Algeciras, as set forth in Article 123, supersedes all other treaties, all other arrangements. That includes the United Nations Charter. And the Act of Algeciras is giving us all the power. So if the Act of Algeciras is giving us all the power, and the Act of Algeciras says that it's supreme to all other international documents, that would include the United Nations Charter, Moors. You got to study, but we got to study the right information. And that would be the United Nations Charter and international law as a whole, to include our Moorish treaties. And we will, not only will we never lose, we cannot lose, I should say, but we would never lose the empire again, especially if we remain in the high spirits of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Go ahead, brother, number 3.
Number 3, the General Assembly may call the attention of the Security Council to situations which are likely to endanger international peace and security. 4, the powers of the General Assembly set forth in this article shall not limit the general scope of Article 10. Article 12. 1. While the Security Council is exercising its respect of any dispute or situation, the functions assigned to it in the present charter, the General Assembly shall not make any recommendations with regard to that dispute or situation unless the Security Council so requests. 2. The Security Council, with the consent of the Secretary General, with the consent of the Security Council, shall notify the General Assembly at each session of any matters relative to the maintenance of international peace and security which are being dealt with by the Security Council, and shall similarly notify the General Assembly or the members of the United Nations if the General Assembly is not in session. Immediately, the Security Council ceases to deal with such matters.
All right, hold right there. Let me do something. I mentioned the powers that's given to us in the Act of Algeciras, and I talked about Article 123. There's a lot of new people on the line. I forgot about that. So being as though I brought up Article 123, is it 123? Yeah, 123. Then I got to go to it. So you all can see the reference point. Where is it? 1 second, I just had it. Okay. All right, let's go to Article 123. Let's see. Control F. Huh. Not allowing me to control F. No worries. I'm at the bottom anyway. Okay. Okay, we're getting to it. 123. Right here. Article 123. And it says, and last, all treaties, conventions, and arrangements of the signatory powers with Morocco remain in force. So everything is in force. All the treaties are in force. They remain in force. It is understood, however, that in case of conflict between their provisions and those of the present General Act, the present General Act is this document, this is the General Act of Algeciras. The stipulations of the latter shall prevail, period. So if there's any conflict in any provisions, this one here is who holds all the power, the Act of Algeciras. I just wanted to point that out to you all. Since I spoke on Article 123, you needed to see and read it for yourself. All right, brother. Article 13.
Article 13, 1. The General Assembly shall initiate study and make recommendations for the purpose of A, promoting international cooperation in the political field and encouraging the progressive development of international law and its codifications. B, promoting international cooperation in the economic, social, cultural, educational, and health fields, and assisting in the realization of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion.
I'm still yet to hear Rockefeller, Rothschild, Illuminati, demonic stuff. Go ahead, brother.
2. The further responsibilities, functions, and powers of the General Assembly with the respect to matters mentioned paragraph 1B above are set forth in the chapters
Chapters are 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
Okay. Article 14.
Article 14. Subject to the provisions of Article 12, the General Assembly may recommend measures for the peaceful adjustment of any situation, regardless of organ, which it deems likely to impair the general welfare or friendly relations among nations, including situations resulting from a violation of the provisions of the present charter, setting forth the purpose and principles of the United Nations. Article 15, 1. The General Assembly shall receive and consider annual and special reports from the Security Council. These reports shall include an account of the measures that the Security Council has decided upon or taken to maintain international peace and security. 2. The General Assembly shall receive and consider reports from the other organs of the United Nations. Article 16. The General Assembly shall perform such functions with respect to the international trusteeship system as are assigned to it under chapters, including the approval of the trusteeship agreements for areas not designated as strategic.
That would be 12 and 13.
12 and 13. Hey,
yeah.
I forget what the X mean. X mean what, 1?
10.
10.
Yeah, and then so X is 10, and then the next whatever comes after. So you see 1 and 2, 1 and 1 or whatever, right? That's 2. So that's 12.
and 13.
You got 2 lines, and then after the next X, you have 3 lines, right? So that makes it 13.
Okay, 12 and 13, 10. I need to remember that 10. Okay,
So
Article
extra
7.
10. Mhm.
The General Assembly shall consider and approve the budget of the organization. The expenses of the organization shall be borne by the members as the uh,
Apportioned.
apportioned by the General Assembly. 3. The General Assembly shall consider and approve all financial and budgetary agreements with specialized agencies referred to in Article 57 and shall examine the administrative budgets of such specialized agencies with a view to making recommendations to the agencies concerned. Voting Article 18. Each
Now, let me
member,
say something else real quick for the record. You see that it's all about peace and security, respect for human rights, just cogence, right? This is the reason why when the Moors come into power, we can't come into power with the belligerent mindset of let's enslave the Europeans, right? Hang them high. You can't do that. We have to treat them with respect for their for their human rights and their state rights. It's called diplomacy. If we were to come in with that mindset and that activity and that behavior, we would not be well received by the nations of the earth. In fact, they may come together against us. That's why Noble brought to our consciousness love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We have to come in to this movement in our higher self, right? With the wisdom to know the difference. We have to love instead of hate. So the idea here is to put them into the proper status of a tenant, according to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and have them paying us taxes while we govern the great enterprise or the empire. That's the name of the game. Put them under our control, authority, jurisdiction, governance, trading places. We treat them with respect, dignity, and all that. You respect their human rights, all that. All that is good, right? But you got to pay taxes and any other form of revenues that we see appropriate, that we see fit for the prosperity of the empire. That's according to treaties. Keep that in mind. Keep that in your spirit, Moors. We can't come in with the belligerent, revengeful mindset of they enslaved us, let's enslave them, and all this other stuff. Let's flip the KKK on them and let's start KKKing them. Right? Let's start hanging them. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. The revenge that you're seeking is taking back control and having them paying us taxes. Because in all actuality, as Moroccans of these Moroccan states, according to the Act of Algeciras, we are millionaires 10 times over, perpetually. And that's why Noble said, children, you are plainly rich. He was reading the Act of Algeciras. It's laid out right there, and the Moors don't want to look at it. And that's shameful. Go ahead, brother.
1. Each member of the General Assembly shall have 1 vote. 2. Decisions of the General Assembly on important questions shall be made by a 2/3 majority of the members present and voting. These questions shall include recommendations with respect to the maintenance of international peace and security, the election of the non-permanent members of the Security Council, the election of the members of the Economic and Social Council, the election of members of the Trusteeship Council in accordance with paragraph 1C of Article 86, the admission of the new members to the United Nations, the suspension of the rights and privileges of the membership, the expulsion of members, questions relating to the operation of the trusteeship system, and budgetary questions. Decisions on other questions, including the determination of additional categories of questions to be decided by a 2/3 majority, shall be made by a majority of the members present and voting. Article 19, a member of the United Nations, which is in arrears in the payment of its financial contributions to the organization, shall have no vote in the General Assembly if the amount of its R's equals or exceeds
It's arrears.
arrears.
Yeah.
Arrears equals or exceeds the amount of the contributions due from the preceding 2 full years. The General Assembly may nevertheless permit such a member to vote if it is satisfied that the failure to pay is due to conditions beyond the control of the member.
Now, the other reason for you to study this document and all other international documents is so that you can get an understanding on how to write on that level. It also teaches you how to, because when Moors are writing written affidavits, they're getting that from what the United States have provided, right? That's their reference point. They learn how to write in the language of a written affidavit. Well, we got to switch that up. We got to learn how to write in the language of international law, consular court orders, legislation, things of that nature. If we're going to look at U.S. legislation, we got to look at it from the perspective to learn how to write our own legislation. I'm going to leave the Europeans here long enough to teach you how to run government. You got to look at what they're doing so that you can now mirror images so that in that way you will learn how they're doing things. Right? So how do they write legislation? How is it formatted? How does the ICJ deliver their orders? How is it formatted? What's the language that's in these documents? This is part of your erudition to make you a powerful Moor on planet Earth, because that's the thing. We're the most powerful people. We taught these Europeans this. This is our old science. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You've already been doing all of this, right? This is in our DNA. We have to now unlock that aspect of our DNA. And the only way to do it is by studying it, looking at it every day, understanding it, gaining further knowledge and understanding as to what it is that we're looking at when we look at these treaties and these international documents. And your DNA will start opening up. This is what's going on right now as we speak with the Moroccan government, with these several Moroccan governments. All of our DNA is opening back up to the ways of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. By way of law, we are the lawgivers and the lawmakers, aren't we? L's and bays. But it's not the laws that's associated with the L's and the bays is not United States laws. That's straying away to gods of Europe that you know nothing of. Our laws are supreme. That means that we need to be dealing with international law. Let's keep that in mind, Moors, please. Understand what the points that I'm trying to bring across here on this call. Islam. Go ahead, brother. Article 20.
Article 20. The General Assembly shall meet in regular annual sessions and in such special sessions as occasions may require. Special sessions shall be convoked by the Secretary General at the request of the Security Council or of a majority of the members of the United Nations. Article 21. The General Assembly shall adopt its own rules of procedure. It shall elect its president for each session. Article 22. The General Assembly may establish such subsidiary organs as it deems necessary for the performance of its functions.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock. We're gonna stop at right here, the Security Council. We'll pick up at the Security Council next week. Obviously, we'll have other things to discuss that may be pertinent to, that's not maybe, but that will be pertinent to the United Nations, like we did today with Resolution 1514. That was very pertinent. It deals with decolonization, and that's the path that we're on. And this is the interest that you all have, right? So let's talk about decolonization. This is all it's about. But the only way to achieve decolonization is through statehood. And in order to have a properly established state that has the full powers to force decolonization, you have to study international law, because all the instructions on how we need to operate is laid out in international in the United Nations Charter, actually, right? And that's what we're going over. So thus far, we've been going over the setup, right? The membership, etc. Now we're going into the Security Council, and we'll be looking at all the other organs like the International Court of Justice, the Trusteeship Council, etc. This is how you're going to start understanding, first of all, what it is that we're doing. Second of all, what it is that we should have been doing. Third, this is what the African states and other Moors around planet Earth have been doing over a period of time. While in the meantime, we over here, who had a prophet, who got the treaties, who's in the empire, we're marching and praying. We're the last of the party. And we're the ones with all the power. No worries, it happened for a reason. It's all time released. We might be late to the party, but it's timely for us. Because once we decolonize and take down the big bad United States, all the other colonial powers will start to fall like dominoes. All the Moors in France and in Germany and all the other European jurisdictions will start waking up to the knowledge and understanding that they too are Moroccans, and that they too are in Morocco. Like Germany is Morocco. Germany is in Morocco. Great Britain is in Morocco. Spain is in Morocco. Italy is in Morocco. Russia, Hungary, Austria, Hungary, the Netherlands, United States, all of them, they're in Morocco. And all those states belongs to the Sultan, which is why he had to establish the diplomatic body to oversee all his states. And they all had a post at the diplomatic body. Their posts were called legations. The American legation, the German legation, the Italian legation, etc. Which is why we can't be Americans. Because to say that we are Americans, that means that we had a legation in our own Morocco as foreigners. That wouldn't make any sense. They had a legation in Morocco as foreigners. We are the native Moors, the native Moroccans, the indigenous peoples of this land called Morocco, not America. It's not Italy. It's not Germany. It's not Great Britain. It's Morocco. Period. So at this point now, I yield for Q&A, comments or concerns from the floor. I yield.
Islam.
Islam.
Questions on the Resolution 1514, decolonization. 80 countries decolonized, as I understand it. 54 of the African countries, the European countries, Canada, and Cuba. So also I understand that that the Christian nations have pulled out of all these decolonized countries, and only ones that have not pulled back is the United States, because they're holding on to some thing called our acquiescence that can't be interfered with. I'm sure you have a better way of phrasing it, but Brother Jay Bay phrased it something that they're holding on to that. That's something that cannot be interfered with at this time because of our acquiescence. So I want to know about the countries in Africa, such as the Congo. Have they pulled out from digging up that cobalt? And how does that speak to what's going on in Palestine, which is, of course, we all know that that's all what they call Middle East is Africa. I yield.
Okay. That was a pretty long question. I'm not sure where to start. Let's break that down little by little. What was your initial question?
Yes, the 80 questions. I guess so. I should have just said that it was a comment, then followed up by a question. And I wanted clarity on the 80 countries because, as I understand it, was 80, 54 in Africa, and then there was the European countries and Canada and Cuba. Look, I don't know how it adds up to 80, but those were the countries that were stated. The European countries, 54 countries in Africa, Canada, and Cuba.
Not Canada. Canada is not decolonized. In fact, it's being decolonized now by AMPAG, which is Allodium Moorish Palladium Ante
Ontario.
Right.
Okay.
But and I'm not, yeah, Cuba to a degree. A lot of them dealing with neo-colonialism. 54 in tech in Africa for sure. Maybe more. I think it's all 55. I think have decolonized, but they're also suffering or dealing with neo-colonialism, other forms of independence. Meaning, as we mentioned earlier, there's 3 different forms of independence: independent state, free association, or integration.
Yeah.
Right. So many of them are not necessarily independent. They're a mixture of free association and integration. Right. And right now
Yes.
they're fighting for full independence. Right. As you see, Nigeria has kicked out France and all these things that's going on in the news with Africa and their decolonization efforts. So they're still in the good fight to gain full independence, and it's primarily because their leader guys, which are the government officials, they're sold out, right? They have taken a pay. But to go further with your question, I can give you all the states, all 80, right? Some were islanders, many were islanders. Jay just went over the one of many, which is Mauritius, right? What was the other one? I always forget. Timor, yeah, Timoria, others. So many of which are in the Indian Ocean, in that area, right?
Yeah.
So it's the United Nations, what we read in the charter, not the charter, but their website today, dealing with decolonization, they tell you 80, and there's another 14 that are on the waiting list to decolonize. And that's because of the fact that the trusteeship council was abolished, if you will, and they reestablished a committee called the C24, and they're basically dragging their feet. But the problem is that the United Nations, through the trusteeship council or the C24, they control the narrative of decolonization. And we decided as a people, as Moroccans, to take matters into our own hand, and we control the narrative of decolonization. We are going to decolonize for ourselves and not depend on the United Nations or any other committee from the United Nations to help us with that. We're going forward with that, and what they're going to help us with is the adjudication, the judicial settlement of decolonization. That's what we need from them. That's it, the judicial settlement through the ICJ. But outside of that, the process of decolonization, we're taking that into our own hand. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but I hope I did.
Yeah, I got the meat and potatoes is basically what is a lot of what is called decolonization, or has been stated as decolonization. Um, is some peel back, with the your social, with those three layers that you were talking about, that those processes that certain countries are going through because of the colonized minds that that are that are that are that are being filtered, that are filtering their decolonization, slowing down the process, stalling, what is that, stalling, the stalling, and
The
um
nine and the 10.
yeah, deny and defend. Yeah, that's still there. I get that. I understand that better now. And then it was the uh stated that all of Great Britain have pulled out of their countries, and the United States is the only holdout because on all of their colonies is because of this thing of acquiescence, the tacit acquiescence.
Okay.
That yeah.
They don't have anywhere to go. What you're referring to is they pulled out of the treaties,
Hmm.
and such as the Treaty of the Act of Algeciras. But the United States is holding, or is the only other signatory European power left holding on to the treaty, right? Because they're holding on to the Moors under extraterritoriality. Is that the term that you were talking
What
about?
say that again?
Extraterritoriality based on our acquiescence.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Exercise territoriality, extraterritorial jurisdiction, meaning that they have their own jurisdiction, we got our own jurisdiction, but because we're acquiescing, they're extending their powers onto our jurisdiction. In other words, controlling or governing an extra jurisdiction, i.e., extraterritoriality. You follow?
Yeah. Yes. I follow that. Mhm.
So
Uh,
that's essentially what's going on. However, those same signatory powers who pulled out, they're still subject to the treaties,
mhm.
regardless. It's in full force regardless. They are in Morocco and they're holding on to Moors in Morocco. But it's up to the self-determination of those Moors. The British say, I'm not British, I'm not a British Moor. I'm a Moroccan. Same as we're trying to tell the Moors here, you're not Moorish Americans, you're Moroccan. You're not an American Moor, you're not a British Moor, you're not a German Moor, you're not a Portuguese Moor, you're not a French Moor. Those are your titles as a subjugated Moor under the country that's being highlighted in that term. French Moor, German Moor, British Moor, American Moor, all subjugated Moor. All those Moors are Moroccans, and they have to stand up through based on their rights of self-determination to enact a constitution that recognizes their nationality as such, i.e., Moroccan, and then now become self self-governing within their territories that has been under colonial rule. Understood?
Understood. This is where the rise of the empire will come. Thank
No
you.
doubt.
And my questions are answered. Yeah.
Islam, bro.
Islam.
Islam, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, there's a few things I wanted to talk about earlier, but I'm gonna scrap that because it's kind of lengthy. But question regarding the videos. I know you're busy, and we're kind of backed up on the AMPAG videos, but how far back were you looking? Like, are you like 5, 6 videos behind?
Kingdom put me on the spot. We're backed up 2 videos. I gotta get 2 videos out. So I was just thinking about that this evening actually. So I'll have it done, if not fully tonight, and by tomorrow I'll have them uploaded. Well, it depends on Jazz, because Jazz is also busy, so I gotta send it to him so he can edit it. I haven't done that yet myself.
Okay.
So once he edited, the moment that he finished editing it, I'll upload it ASAP. It's
Islam.
overdue. been about a
Islam.
month or longer since there's been a video that popped up. So we've got about 2 or 3 that's in the queue. So I'll get them up there this week.
Okay. I definitely wanted to remind you all to make sure you edit out the stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We don't want any strikes.
that doesn't have to be edited out because remember I cut it. I had to shut it. I had to end the session and then start a new session, which started a whole new recording. So
Okay, so that first one you just didn't even save.
exactly. Those
Okay.
other 2 I didn't even save. It's just a good one now. So
Okay, well, that's good. Well, just to be safe, just scan through
no
as he's
doubt.
editing.
No doubt. I'll be sure to inform him of that.
Islam.
Thank you, brother. Anyone else?
Islam, I just want to point out earlier when you was reading, I guess this can say this is one like misconception. You can keep with you the kidnapping. He pointed out the effect of the kidnapping. So, if you're a Moorish American and you saying, well, man, you kidnapping, where did they take you from? You never left their jurisdiction. So if you're not of a part of Moroccan state, the effect of kidnapping never comes to life. So there's no use in even making that statement when our document's not correct. With that, I yield.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're in the jurisdiction, you're subject to the civil and criminal jurisdiction of one state of that colonial state, but then now today we have a separate jurisdiction, which is the Moroccan states. So if a Moorish subject that's subject to the civil and criminal jurisdiction of the United States gets arrested, that's an arrest. Pulling a national of a separate jurisdiction out of their jurisdiction into yours is kidnapping. See the difference? Or hostage taking. So the Moorish Americans have never been kidnapped. They've all been arrested. We have all been arrested because I was arrested too as a Moorish American. And I said the same thing. Oh, they kidnapped me. They're a criminal. No, they didn't kidnap me. They arrested me. If they were to arrest me now, it would be a kidnap because I'm of a separate jurisdiction. Now you're pulling me into your just kidnapping and extraterritoriality, by the way, because you're reaching into another jurisdiction, an extra jurisdiction to enforce your civil and criminal laws. And that's a violation of international law because now, as we read in the Resolution 1514, you're interfering with the internal affairs of another state. And that's a violation of international law.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So,
No, go ahead.
I know you probably can't just go too deep, but is it any nationals of any of the Moroccan states that you're aware of that been kidnapped?
Are there any nationals of the Moroccan states that have been kidnapped?
Yes.
Is this Kendon?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Why would you ask me that? You know that.
I just wanted to ask if you knew anybody that had been kidnapped, not just arrested.
We've had a official that was kidnapped, not arrested. It was a kidnapping, and we're currently going through the due process of law to deal with this matter, this dispute with the United States. What is the due process of law? Mediation, arbitration, and then judicial settlement. Right? It's a process. We can't pick up arms and run up on the White House or the Capitol building of the governor and say, give me back my national. It doesn't work that way. Right? We must invoke international law and the Pacific settlements of dispute. And this is a dispute that we have right now within the movement. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I got one more. And being that they got kidnapped, are they handling the matter on their own as an individual?
Of course not. The state is behind the individual now. And I just really the whole WRC. So it's 7 states that's behind this individual. But again, we have to go through the due process. And it's very interesting that you asked that, because when I was about to say something, and the things that I was about to say was about to relate to this. And then you came and you asked me that. So that's very interesting. I guess it was timely. So we understand Article 1, Article 15, Paragraph 1 and Paragraph 2 of the Treaty of Madrid, Article 15. Paragraph 1 says to choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire. Paragraph 2 says that if you don't, then the laws of the country will apply to you without any restrictions. The United States, and listen to me carefully, Morris, the United States has been under what's called customs and usage. They've been accustomed to and used to adjudicating us based on Paragraph 2, to the brother's point earlier, which was based on our acquiescence. So we acquiesced. We did not take heed to our Paragraph 1. We remain naturalized, and so therefore Paragraph 2 applied. And that's been the case since 1880 up until 2023. So this is what they're used to. They're used to adjudicating us. What am I saying? There's multitudes of case law dealing with that matter of us acquiescing and them adjudicating us. There's a whole lot of case law dealing with their adjudication against us. But there is no case law dealing with us choosing between the entire submissions and adhering to Paragraph 1 of Article 15. And this is the status. This is a new status in Morocco. And they're freaking out. They don't know what to do with it, because we have chosen between entire submission. So we have totally just threw them off their square, because they can't just legally exercise Paragraph 2 as they did before. There's a new status, bro. We're Paragraph 1 now. That's choosing between entire submission. That's going into the Moroccan jurisdiction by way of establishing your states. So since there is no case law based on that, case law is now being created, and this is one of them. This is the first case law based on a new status as of the date that we have chosen between entire submission to the laws of the empire, as Moroccan nationals, competent Moroccan nationals of our competent Moroccan states. This is a whole new status, a whole new paradigm, and the United States is struggling with that. And so they're fumbling, if you understand the backstory, right? Which we're not going to get into, because that's internal affairs. I've already spoken it enough on it. But I would say, to keep it simple, they're off their square and not sure what to do. They're backtracking, saying one thing, doing the other. This is not the way. We all know how the United States operate. They don't play games with you. Once they got you, they got you. And they're going to move forward with you. They're moving really with him. And we're continuing the pen battle with them released, and also to get them to deal with the fines that's coming next. Without saying. So let me say this last thing. So what's going on now is we are gathering, compiling documented evidence of them exercising extraterritoriality in Morocco, intervening the impossibility of the performance of our states. We can prove through documented evidence, when we go to the ICJ, that they have violated Resolution 1514, because they have interfered with the internal affairs of our state. That's never been a thing before. Oh, it's a new thing now, and they're gonna learn today. I hope I answered the question and brought some further clarity to the subject matter. Any other questions?
Point of privilege.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Noble Kenyon did ask that question. I had that question in my mind as well. The states that are recognized, and they're still going to be dealing with the belligerents, as you have pointed out. And then there's from that, then there's the friendly application that is applied, going to um, the consular, going to the consular court, and then the consular court dealing with it in the consular court. They belligerent with the consular court, and then it's taken to the UN, and the UN taken to the ICJ, and that's where that's where they will get their reckoning, so to speak, because like you say, they're off of their square, and then it could be called into question about not the subject matter, but now the their lease. If you're gonna act like that, now their lease is called into question. I yield.
And who was speaking?
Brother North Star. I'm with the Republic of Morocco Estate in Ante, Massachusetts, on the Quasi
Okay, Islam, bro.
Islam.
Yep, you made some good points. It's a matter of we can say that they're criminals. We can say that they're violating law, international law, but can we prove that? Is the question. So therefore, we need the documented evidence of their criminality or belligerence, their violations of international law, to hold them accountable at the ICJ. But to correct you on something, it's on the self-determination of each Moroccan state to decide as to whether they want to invoke consular court first or the WRC first. The recommendation is that they bring in the WRC first for further arbitration and conciliation and arbitration, right?
Yes.
And then if that fails, then we bring in consular court. If consular court failed, then we petition the United Nations and the ICJ.
Yeah, that was the friendly application. I just missed that. I just missed that part of it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's the friendly application. That's the due process. That's so the Moorish Americans who are course correcting and becoming Moroccan nationals and are interested in working with the Moroccan states and the WRC got to understand the Moorish American movement is not the same, not even similar to the Moroccan statehood movement. It's two different beasts, right? We're following the strict sense of international law, the instructions that's laid out in international law to show our competency to the world, especially the judges of the ICJ, so that we can gain a favorable judgment at the ICJ. And it's not about beating traffic tickets. It's not about beating tax problems and all this crap that the Moorish Americans have gotten themselves involved in because they think that they're the heirs and they run everything and nobody tells them what to do and all this sovereign citizen crap. That's not what it's about. It's about decolonization. It's about solving the problem across the board for everyone involved, all the peoples of planet Earth, and all the peoples within the empire. That's uplifting fallen humanity. But why did humanity fall? Because the Moors fell. Why did the Moors fail? Because they fell out of the constitutional fold of government and became protected and subjugated under the civil and criminal jurisdiction of other Christian nations, i.e., straying to Christian gods that we know nothing of. I'm paraphrasing. That's been our problems is acquiescence. But the reason why we fell into the status of acquiescence is because we were sold out. We weren't told about these things. We didn't know anything about this. In fact, you got people like W.E.B. Du Bois and Alex Haley, who wrote these books about us being Negroes and Africans. keeping in mind that Noble Drew Ali had just passed away, so they knew who Noble Drew Ali was. That's the part that's egregious. We were sold out by everybody. All the famous people sold us out. All right, all the ones that were put in our face as our leaders, except for those who were assassinated. The reason why, see, Martin Luther King was a sellout, but he course corrected after he came in contact with Al Malik and started learning about who we are and what we needed to do. Then he started talking about the Negro is languished in the corners of American society where he found himself exiled on his own homeland. Now he started opening his mouth. And they got rid of him. Because he knew the truth. He knew what we needed to do. Right? So we gotta understand that we've been sold out, and we gotta stop protecting and defending these sellouts. We fall in love with people and ideologies, and we start worshiping and following, being in fellowship of people. Oh, Farrakhan, oh, Elijah, the honorable Elijah. Ain't nothing honorable about this man. Why do we keep calling him honorable? He took the fez off of our heads and put a bow tie on instead. Had us out there selling bean pies and passing out newspapers. And took away the El Bay Ali and gave us X. That's not honorable. The man's name was Elijah Poole Bey, for crying out loud. He was a temple Moor. Come out of the temple and established the Nation of Islam and switched everything up and shrouded it in secrecy in what's called the Supreme Wisdom, which is similar to the Adab chamber for the temple. The temple has Adab chamber. The Nation of Islam has the Supreme Wisdom, and that's where you learn about the whole Moorish thing. Really? So you coming out here saying the black man? Noble said Asiatic. He said the Asiatic black man. Like, come on, that's not honorable. We got to hold these people accountable and stop kissing their asses. They sold us out. Period. It can be proven. When you start studying international law and statehood, specifically international law, you start to confirm what Noble said in many ways, and you also start to confirm how serious and how deep the sellout took place. Because there's no way a lot of these people didn't know none of this. They were paid off. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a few quick statements regarding that issue. But first, I wanted to ask everyone on the floor if they've ever heard of or read somewhere that Noble Drew Ali entrusted the quote Elijah Poole Bey to keep Islam alive in America. Does anybody recall seeing that or reading that anywhere?
I've never read it, but I've heard of it.
Okay. Because yeah, I thought about that a few years ago, and I had this discussion with another Moor, one of our elders. There's an echo. Sorry, I mistakenly muted you, Wazir. But
it's all
yeah,
good.
so me and the elder were talking about this issue, and of course, he was giving me his viewpoints on it. But then I remembered reading that somewhere, and I thought about what was going on at the time, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people remember, or at least those who have read the file that I was talking about in AMPAG Media recently. But it goes over the history of the MSTA, and what happened after the Prophet's death was that a lot of Moors, different temples, were going at it to the point where blood was drawn. Right? And so you have these Moors fighting over the Prophet's documents, fighting over his seat, his power, and violence erupts to the point where the police gets involved, right? And you got Moors fearing for their lives. The people who were part of the de jure temple, according to the files that I read, um, took what they had of the Prophet's documents and went underground essentially in the early 30s. I believe it's after Emiliel passed away. They took the documents and kind of disappeared from sight, basically. So going back to Elijah Muhammad or Elijah Fulbe, so yeah, that issue was brought up, and thinking of it from a perspective of a Moor who was entrusted with the task of keeping Islam alive and seeing other Moors essentially killing each other just for power, right? I figured, well, if I was in his situation and I was given this task and I see Moors going after each other, I don't want them to come after me, right? And it's a principle of the art of war to pretend like you're weak when you're strong, right? And when you're strong, pretend you're weak. And I don't want to justify his actions because I don't know whoever did it, I don't know what their reasons were for going back to the whole black thing and taking the fez off. But if it was to get out of the sights, the crosshairs of the Moors who were trying to, you know, take people out just to put themselves in positions of power, then I could comprehend that if that was the case. You get what I'm saying?
Same. And that's. Let me say this for the record. Many of the Moors who sold out, and when I say Moors, I mean Asiatics, period, whether Negro, Fez, whatever, they sold out for different reasons. So it's only fair to examine and determine based on the truth and the facts, based on documentation, what was the reason for the sellout. So one person may have been, their family may have been threatened, right? So one more may have sold out because the FBI told them, if you open your mouth, I'm gonna kill your whole family. Well, that's what would I do in that situation? Okay, the Moors are asleep, ain't nothing going on, everybody's selling out. Why would I put my family at risk? I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, right? That's one thing. Now, here's another determination. Did you sell out for planes and millions of dollars, and did you take the payoff? See, that's a whole nother story. We got to deal with them in a different way than we would someone who sold out because his family was threatened. Kind of to your point. So when the time comes, when they have to face the judge, the Moroccan judge, for their atrocities against the people, right? The investigation by the consul general, right, would reveal the truth about everything. And we can make decisions based on that. That's fair to the Moor. Because again, was his family at risk, or you did it for the dollar? So there are considerations. However, the point is that they all will be looked at with judicial eyes based on whatever evidence may come out of dealing with the FBI or petitioning the FBI to release the information so that we'll know which way we go with the people who sold us out. Does that make sense? And would you agree that that's in line with what you were trying to say, essentially?
Yeah, somewhat. But yeah, the fact that Islam is still alive in America largely because of NOI. I could personally say, even though they took off the fez and went back to the whole black stuff, he fulfilled his mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, minus the whole scandal surrounding him as a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was just always my thought process when it came to him specifically, based on what I was taught and what I recall. You know,
Mm-hmm.
In that situation, I would definitely put myself in a position where I would want other Moors to not see me as a threat. So of course I'd pretend to sell out, right?
Hmm.
So they won't come after my neck. So I can continue my mission and, fulfill the work that the prophet entrusted me with.
Well, one thing about him for sure is, regardless on his personal purposes, we know that he he ate really good off the people. He was not a broke dude, right? He was a millionaire. He ate really well off the people. And so those things can be considered, but at the end of the day, again, what will reveal the real truth about about all these matters surrounding the sellout is the FBI having a discussion with the FBI. They will know more than we would even know, and they would have to divulge this information so that we may be able to move competently with adjudicating those who deserve the adjudication, and perhaps just a slap on the wrist to those who may not necessarily deserve such stiff fines and penalties and confiscations. Islam.
Islam.
And that's it right here. The death of Drew Ali brought out a number of candidates to succeed him. Brother Edward Mealy Ill stated that he had been declared Drew Ali's successors by Drew Ali himself. Okay, I could have said that myself, right? That's hearsay. In August, within a month of Drew Ali's death, John Gibbons Ale, Drew Ali's chauffeur, declared that he was Drew Ali reincarnated, right? He is said to have fainted while working on Drew Ali's automobile, and the sign of the star and crescent appeared in his eyes. And he is the reincarnated prophet. That's his image right there, right? Oh, and by the way, Cujo pointed out he showed. He's an interesting character. He showed how. Well, now that's Emily L. I'm sorry, but the reincarnated prophet. He has a whole mausoleum with in big bold letters, reincarnated prophet John Gibbons Ale. Prophet over Drew Ali got a little placard in the ground that gets covered in grass when the grass grows. Imagine that.
Yeah,
That's how
they're the
bad.
ones that are more so loaded financially than the others, but they're also the ones who recently have been quote unquote naturalizing Moors
Yeah,
to be the white status.
right.
So Moors are already, Moorish Americans are already American citizens, but they're still going through this bogus naturalization process and charging
Right.
Moors hundreds.
Shameful. And that lineage got to be looked at. So then it goes on to say, he is, I got something blocking me. He is said to have fainted. Oh, yeah, I already read that. At the September Unity Conference, Givens again made his claim of reincarnation. However, the governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America declared Charles Kirkman Bey, let me rephrase that, Colonel C. Kirkman Bey, to be the successor to Drew Ali and named him Grand Advisor. So that's a three-way split. John Gibbons Ale, Edward Mealy Ill, and Colonel Kirkman Bey, C. Kirkman Bey. Right? With the support of several temples each, Mealy Ill and Gibbons Ale both went on to lead separate factions of the Moorish Science Temple, And then so we wonder why there's three different temple number ones. Temple number one for E. Mealy Ill, temple number one for John Gibbons Ale, temple number one for C. Kirkman Bey. Right? Come on. It's ridiculous. All three factions, Kirkman Bey, Mealy Ale, and Gibbons Ale, are active today. Like, come on. So now you wonder why there's confusion? Because there's three different ideologies within the temple itself. Three different temples, three different ideologies, three different prophets, three different leaders, three different everything. That's why we can't come together. It's divided with three. It's divided into three parts, plus the Nation of Islam. So these things must be understood. Grand Sheik's got to answer some questions. What's going on with this? And why haven't we done anything about it? Why we just allow it to be this way for the past 94 years or so? As if it's okay. Nah. Hell no. Something got to be done about this. Any other questions before we close out? It's 10:52. We'll close out at 11 sharp.
Yeah, Abdul, I just wanted to make a quick statement based off of you and Hakeem. Not Noble Jeweler, I'm sorry. Elijah Muhammad and Noble Jew Ali From my understanding, they was good friends. So, and also Marcus Garvey, they always they acknowledged the Moors. I never understood how the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan himself honored Elijah Muhammad in a lecture, but Khalid Muhammad, I think he was the one that separated himself from the Nation of Islam. He acknowledged himself as a Moor, but he talked about his religious belief as an NOI. So I never understood how they didn't come together on both perspectives. I understand that nationality and religion is two separate things, but a lot of those NOIs, they knew they was Moors. So I never understood how it became so separate the way it was, and why um Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad was still calling us black during that time when Elijah himself knew Noble Drew Ali's stance and who we were. So in that I yield.
Well, that's what we were saying. That's I would say that Hakeem was playing a devil's advocate, if you will. What can potentially be the positive side of it and his reasons for it, right? But either way, what's done is what's done is what's done. It hurt us, whether he didn't mean harm or not, whether he was just trying to look out for himself or not, from getting persecuted by all these Moors or not. It still brought sorrow to our people as a whole. Because if we had the proper concept and context as to who we were and what it is that we needed to do, we could have solved this problem a long time ago. We had the power and the energy to do it. We were just displacing it in the wrong way because we didn't know which way to go with it. Which, if you don't know what you don't know, right? So we don't know about the treaties. We didn't even know we were Moroccans. We spent years and years learning that we were Africans, roots and all this stuff, Amistad and whatever have you. Punta Kinte, African booty scratcher, right? Porch monkey, and all these terms that was, it's all over the place. Like, it was ridiculous. There was a time when everyone hated America and being identified as American, right? The red, black, and green Black conscious movement had us all believing, well, man, we're Africans and we come from Africa. Africa is the motherland. And then there was a period in which the paradigm shifted, and now they started thinking that they're American. That's the Taj Tariq Bey era. He single-handedly brought everybody into Moorish understanding, but as Americans, even though he himself said that this is Morocco. And the Circle 7, chapter 47 says Moroccan Empire, not American Empire. Well, now there's a new paradigm, and that's the Moroccan paradigm, the Moroccan statehood paradigm that's fixing all the problems, right? There's a problem, we're coming with the solution. We're getting rid of the dirty cup of water, we're bringing alkaline water, right? So we were sold out. For whatever reason, we got to determine what the reasons were, but the bottom line is we were sold out. And we were put in the status of black. And like I mentioned earlier, Farrakhan is credited for giving Noble Drew Ali and the Moors props, for the fast. But he's speaking of it as if it's a separate people, as if the people within his congregation or that was in the audience are not Moors. What he really should have been saying, Noble Drew Ali brought this fast to all of you as Moors. This is your national headdress, everybody, that's in attendance and all across America, right? But that's not what he said. He said it as if it's a separate people. Oh, the Moors, that belongs to the Moors. And we're black, they're Moors, we're black. Come on. So that's the bottom line with that. Regardless on what the reasons are, the bottom line is we were sold out. And no worries, today we're fixing that problem. And so it's incumbent upon you all to take this knowledge, go study it, right? And stand up on your square on behalf of the empire and help us rebuild the empire so that we can force decolonization and have a brighter future for ourselves and our future generations. Islam. If there's no other questions, I'll yield. So I'll give it a couple of seconds. Any other questions, comments before we go? All right. Well, I appreciate all your attendance, your attention. Please go back and study the reference points. Read the charter. It's simple to pull up. All you gotta do is Google United Nations Charter, and it'll pull right up, and you just examine it. Go through it. Look at Resolution 1514. Share this information with everybody that you come in contact with. Share the reference points with them. All your Moorish friends, Moorish Americans that are hard-headed, send it to them anyway. Man, listen, I know you hard-headed, I know you believe in Noble, I know Noble didn't say this, but read it anyway. Because Noble didn't write the J.A. Rogers books, but you study that. Well, how about you just put down J.A. Rogers and Ivan Van Sertima and whatever author, and just take a look at the treaties. It is Moorish treaties after all. It's not American treaties. It's Moorish treaties that's given us back our sovereignty and independence and the rights to take back the governance and control of the empire once again. Islam, I'll get with that. Peace and love. May the blessings of Allah be upon you all.
Islam.
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 Islam. Peace and love, family.
Islam.